So, good morning from Crete, from Greece. My name is Konstantinos Petridis. I am an associate professor in laser physics here in the Hellenic Mediterranean University. I'm a part of the ITEM project, Innovative Teaching of Education in Mathematics. Together, me and my colleague Renate Natchev from UMIT. Probably, Renate, you would like to say something to our guests, to our participants. From my side, I would like to thank you very much for your participation. And also I would like to thank a lot our invited lecturers for their time and for their contribution. So Renate, the floor is yours if you would like to say a few things about you.
Yeah, hello together. I'm very happy to see so many participants at this event today, this workshop. Yes, my name is Renate Natchev. I'm from the UMIT in Tyrol. It's in Austrian. In Costa Sete, it's in the middle of Europe, I think so. We have still snow at the mountain. Yes, I'm a research assistant here at the Institute of Medical Informatics. And what we are doing in this project is wants to help to organize pedagogical and didactical workshops. And on the other side, we work on learning analytics, a topic to support students to best do mathematics learning. So thank you. And yes, I'm very happy to see Evangelia here and Mirella, all the colleagues we work together here in Europe.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Renate. So before we will start, I will explain to you about the event and how I'm going to do this. I'm going to a little bit to tour you through the website that we have developed together with UMIT and all the colleagues of the ITEM project. So I will share my screen in order to check, and I will send you all the links. The event is linked with the main website of the ITEM project. So let me share my screen in order to show you what do we have for you the next 2 days. So this is like the web page. I mean, we have more than 400 registrations. A lot of people, probably, I suspect that they will follow our event. They are going to follow the recorded files. So we are going to discuss these 2 days how to teach and learn mathematics. At the beginning, we have in the first day on the 28th of April. Sorry about this. I should correct it. I can find mistakes of my mistakes. As I'm scrolling down. On the 28th of April, we are going to have experts related to how to teach mathematics. I hope that you are going to find their lectures very useful for you. I mean, in some cases we can use, their tips. In some other cases, we can integrate these tips within our methodology. So today, we are going to have 3 lecture sessions. We are going to start with the assistant professor Evangelia Triantafylou from Aalborg University in Denmark. Her talk is going to be, it's going to touch more the pedagogy, using the flipped classroom and gamification along teaching mathematics. So we are looking forward, to listen the talk of Evangelia, that it will start immediately after this tour. Then we are going to have 2 colleagues from the University of La Laguna in Canary Islands in Spain, Professor Gonzalez and Professor Israel Garcia Alonso. They are going to introduce to us an example in teaching mathematics with technology. So we are going to move from pedagogy, we are going to move towards technology. And we are very happy that Rodrigo and Israel will be with us in order to transfer to all of us their expertise, how to use ICT tools along with mathematics teaching. And then we are going to Professor Karsendi from the Weizmann Institute of Science will join us in order to discuss to us about mathematical creativity for all. So that, I mean, from my point of view as a physicist, mathematics is a great tool. So creating, it helps to increase and enhance your creativity anyhow. So as you can see in this website that I will send you this, this website regarding this event is linked with our main website. I will go over directly to this, in a short while. You can see two buttons. You will see the slides. So the slides will be uploaded. So you will be able to download the slides from the website and also watch it again. So watch it again, it will be, these recorded files that you will be able to watch again these talks whenever you want at your pace in order to digest a little bit more and better the messages from our lecturers. So if I go to the main website about ITEM, ITEM is an Erasmus capacity building project. It involves the target countries Israel, Kosovo, and Uzbekistan. And we would like to thank all our colleagues from these universities and the students and the colleagues. Let me also to accept people. The project has to do with it would like to suggest improvement along teaching mathematics, like how to use technology, how to use real life problems in order to help us and also the students to realize the impact of mathematics in their fields. We are focused a little bit more in the engineering and also in the computer science, but the principles of the ITEM, I will say, and I'm very confident of this, can be applied in any STEM course. So we would like through the ITEM to introduce visualization using Mathematica or GeoGebra or any free software that is available. Mathematica is not free. For this, we have a funding for our test institutions to employ, to be trained and also use the Mathematica, real life problems, frequent testing, how to use technology, and whatever item is related, it's the topic of this workshop. So we're going to summarize somehow in these 2 days what we would like to do within, or what we are doing actually in the item. If you are interested more in the item, you can contact with me and you can become an associate partner. You can follow all our actions. You can follow our schools. We are going to do more things online. We hope that we are going to return the project in face-to-face meetings and also educational programs. But who knows? I mean, no one knows what will happen, in few months. So from my side, I would say this is what I would like to say. I will share with you also a presentation for this event in order to have some figures and to understand. This is something that I would like to thank Renate, because it was what I'm going to do now is I'm going to present Renate's work. So this is like the 2 days event that we are going to do on the 28th and the 29th of April. About the project, we are 16 partners. I just mentioned the involvement of the test institutions, the National University of Uzbekistan, KAE in Kharsi, and also TUIT from Uzbekistan. We have from Israel, we have Holon Institute of Technology, we have Hadassah College, and we have Weizmann. From Kosovo, we have Universum College, we have University of Pristina and University of Mitrovica. And from Europe, we have University of Karlstad. In Sweden, we have UMIT. From Austria, we have Hellenic Mediterranean University. From Greece, we have Finki from North Macedonia. We have ULL, University La Laguna in Spain, and Aalborg University in Denmark, and also the Technical University in the Czech Republic. So we are a lot of partners from a lot of countries, and we try to collaborate and integrate our experiences and to test this experience and assess these experiences through our courses and also through such events. This is the program. We are going to start with Evangelia, then with Israel and Rodrigo, and then we are going to have the Q&A session. So please keep your questions for this slot. Then we are going to move to Ronnie, and then another Q&A session. We are going to have an evaluation. I will show to you. It will be very easy. We are going to run it through online. Tomorrow, we are going to focus on how to learn mathematics. We would like to convince students that it's not something that you should scare. Even though that whenever each one of us, I remember when I was young, when I was listening about Mathematica, I was doing, I was scared of them, but I found out that it was a very useful tool. We're going to speak, my colleague, Professor Nissim Harel, he's going to speak together with me about how to learn mathematics. Problem-based learning in mathematics, again, from Evangelia, that we're going to introduce here in a short while. And then we're going to have our Swedish colleagues that they are going to, how can I say, they are going to travel us in an amusement park in order to understand, mathematics better. So I'm looking forward, for all of these lectures. Regarding now the figures, now these are the speakers. You are going to meet them, face to face through this online tool. These are some numbers regarding, the participation. I will say that Kosovo and Uzbekistan, they were very, very active in the participation and regarding students and teachers. And we are very happy for all of you, independent, of the country. This is something like to keep it. I was looking forward, to be in Tyrol and organize this nice event, in Austria, but probably, in the next phase of the project, during the extension, probably this will be the case. And that's it, from this kind of, how can I say, welcome presentation and figures. Before we will start, I hope that Evangelia will allow me to have another 5 minutes, to run, something related to the participants. So I would like to all of you just to try to answer, a few questions using this poll. I hope that you can see the poll. Can you see the poll?
Yes,
okay.
Kostas, we can.
Okay, so please, thank you very much, George, and good morning. George is a colleague of mine from Hellenic Mediterranean University, and I would like to thank him for this participation. So please start, to answer these questions, like what is your profile? If you are an undergraduate student, postgraduate student, university teacher, or high school teacher, or other. So please, we should start to do it now. So we are 91 people, 93 people are still coming. We would like all of you to be active. This will provide us motivation in order to interact, and also motivation for our guest speakers and for all of you to be within our team. I would like also to inform you that beyond this project at 4 o'clock CET, we have another talk regarding ICT tools for online teaching in general, independent of mathematics, from a colleague from Technion at 4 o'clock CET. If you are interested, in order to follow this invited talk, this talk will happen within the framework of our European University Athena. Please send me an email and I will send you the Zoom link. Hi, Alibek, the best man.
Hello. You okay, Kostas?
I'm okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's.
Kostas, who is it from the Technion that will talk?
It's her name is Elena Mizrahi.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, let me check, the chat. Excuse me, questions 2 does not include. Okay, if it does not use your university, I'm sorry. This is a problem that I have discovered, but this kind of tool, since we are a lot of partners in the item, I would like just to map, how many partners participation we have within the item. So excuse me for this mistake. I did not have the option to add other universities. So thank you very much. You can write on the chat your university, and thank you to be with us. So this is, people are still coming. I think that if we give, people are still coming. Let's see. Okay, I mean, when we are going to, so we are 97 people. This is nice, but it's not the number. It's like how interactive we will be afterwards. No. Thank you, all of you. We have from Azerbaijan, from Patras, from Poltava University, Ukraine. Thank you very much to be with us. And I'm sorry, I did not, the technology did not provide me, this extra option. Kosovo, yeah, with Kosovo, it's like they were the champions. Abdullah Gül, yes, my greetings to Abdullah Gül University. This is in Caesarea, in Turkey. All right, so I think that we can stop. This is like share the, I can admit people. So now we are 100, so this is good. Does not mean anything. So we have, this is like we have 34 people, 34% of the people that they have participated in this voting. They were undergraduate students. We have postgraduate students, university teachers, the majority. This was the purpose. We have participants from all the partner universities regarding ITEM and more than them, beyond ITEM. And we can see here the concerns of the teachers. The majority of them, they would like to link mathematics with real-life problems and technology. As a physicist in lasers, please, okay, I will do it now. Please, this is very important to link mathematics with real-life problems, because this gives to the students opens their window in order to realize how useful mathematics is and how they can help to shape the truth. So this is like stop sharing. And we will have more polling at the end regarding the evaluation of the first day. I'm sorry that I'm talking too much. This is necessary to do. I would like now to give the floor to the first speaker, which is Evangelia Triantafylou. Evangelia is an assistant professor in Aalborg University in Denmark. I hope Evangelia is with us. She's going to speak to us. She's going to share with us her experience regarding flipped classroom approach and also gamification along teaching mathematics. Evangelia has a PhD from the University of Aalborg in Denmark. Her first degree is on electronic, is from the Aristotle University in Thessaloniki. She's an engineer, an electrical engineer. And so Evangelia is one of the most important partners in ITEM project. And we would like to thank her once more for her offer and contribution to the project. So Evangelia, if you are with us, the floor is yours to start your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kostas.
I hope that you are going to be very fast.
Yes, Kostas, now I have to cut half of my slides.
No. Don't worry.
But I will do my best
okay,
to still, thank you very much to all of you for being here today. Thank you, Kostas, for your kind words. I hope you can now see my screen. Can you still see one slide on my screen?
Everything is fine, yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. So today I would like to say a few words about the flipped learning or flipped classroom approach and how this can be combined with gamification and game-based learning. So I'm going to talk very fast, obviously, about the pedagogical foundation of flipped learning. Then in order to also discuss the effect that flipped learning can have, but also gamification, I'm going to refer a bit to the self-determination theory and how we can motivate actually students. Then I'm going to give a short introduction on gamification and on game-based learning. And then finally, I have a few suggestions for tools that someone can use both for flipped classrooms and gamification. So the flipped classroom approach was started actually at the University of Colorado. It was around, I think, 2009 or even 2007 now, when they started, two professors, Jonathan Bergman and Aaron Sams, they started recording their lectures and materials, uploading materials online, so the students who were sick could still actually follow these lectures. Oh, sorry for that. I'm very sorry. Give me a second. No. Yes, so they started doing that, and they called that the flipped classroom approach. Of course, in some disciplines, this has been the case. So, getting material before a class and getting prepared for that was a practice at medical schools for many years. But this change has started a movement, and we can see here how the term, in Google search has been evolving. So around 2010, the term has started really, has started being used. So now let us see what is the flipped classroom exactly. So obviously this is not the case, but I have two definitions here. Well, the thing is, in the flipped classroom, what we try to do is we try to separate the parts where the students are passive, just hearing to information, and then separate this from the part where the students are being active and working with problems, working with assignments, with projects, etc. So in that case, what we try to do is we try to take these interactive and active activities in class, and then have this, a passive part out of the class, in order to actually use the valuable time where the teacher meets the students for active learning activities. So if we try to separate a bit the different sections, or the different sessions of a flipped classroom, we have the out of class instruction, which is mainly preparation. So the students may read textbooks, they may watch some videos or tutorials. They can also have activities, as we will see, to test their own understanding on the preparation material. This could be also parts of what we will do in a lecture. So learning some new concepts and explaining that, and the teachers can use their own material or other people's material for introducing these concepts. Then when the students and the teachers meet in class, so this is the second session, the teacher can have whatever we used to do as homework in this session. So the students can work in projects. It can be also group work. So the student can, the teacher can separate students in groups and having them working together. And this is the active learning part I was referring to before. And after that, there is also a post-class session, which is often neglected, but there is. And in this post-class, the students may complete their assignments that they did in class, or extend their learning by, doing some reflection assignments, like they can write, a blog on the lecture and on the activities, or they can finalize what they did. They can prepare a presentation on the project they finalized, etc. So the pedagogical foundation, so why this started gaining momentum. Flipped Classroom believes on active learning, and active learning actually tries to shift the focus of learning from passively receiving content information, as actually I'm doing right now. So I'm here and explaining things, and you are just, sitting back and listening to that. This is, one-way transmission transmission of information. Active learning tries to shift the focus from, just passing information to our students to actually having them participating in learning activities. And active learning aims to boost skills among students such as critical thinking, creativity, communication, and collaboration, because we also talked about, group work and also social interactions, since if they work, in groups, but also communicate with their teachers, that also boosts social interactions. So I will borrow here Bloom's taxonomy to explain a bit, the goal of flipped classroom. So Bloom's taxonomy is actually a model where we try to describe the goals for specific learning activities. So for instance, we may have learning activities where the goal is for our students to remember. So I want my students to remember the definition of a mathematical concept, or a formula. I want my students to remember this formula. So in the lower part of the pyramid, we have, simple learning activities that actually require concrete cognitive skills. And but as we go up in the pyramid, then we have more complex learning activities that actually also aim into more abstract cognitive processes and gaining more more spherical, let's say, view and knowledge on a subject. So when, for instance, we are in analyzing, we expect actually students to be able to analyze other solutions in this in this topic. For instance, I don't know, a mathematical topic, not only being able to remember, how to find the derivative, not only being able to understand, what the derivative is of a function, but also analyzing, other solutions or other projects or other topics using derivatives, and also as we go up, creating new innovative things, using derivatives. So the cognitive processes are more complex as we go up. So the thing is that in the traditional classroom, what we usually do is that we cover the lower parts of the Bloom's taxonomy. So we give some new information and we try to, have our students remember and understand some topics. And then we give them exercises and projects out of class in order for them to go upper. So we build the foundation, let's say, with some lectures, and then we let them, do things in order to move hopefully in the upper levels of Bloom's taxonomy. So what the flipped classroom tries to do is to bring this the lower parts outside of the classroom as a preparation, and then when the students and teachers meet, to actually move together to the upper parts of the pyramid. So to do learning activities that target, let's say, the more complex parts of a topic. Now, the potential of flipped classroom. So two researchers in 2015 have proposed this model in order to evaluate actually the flipped classroom as a pedagogical approach. And they have borrowed the self-determination theory in order to do that. So the self-determination theory actually separates motivation in intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. As we will see later on, in the coming slides, increasing extrinsic motivation is when we are motivated by external factors. So I'm motivated to do my fitness routine because I have a very strict, personal trainer, for instance, and then, that creates some extrinsic motivation. So I personally, maybe I'm not very interested, but because I know, because this person motivates me, then I do that. While the theory talks about intrinsic motivation. So maybe there are other persons who really are motivated, to exercise. And then, of course, these people can be supported, to do that with extrinsic motivation. So the theory separates has some factors that anyhow increase motivation. The first one is the sense of competence. So the sense that I can do things, I can achieve things in general, in whatever activity. It could be learning, it could be mathematics, it could be exercising, whatever. The other is the sense of relatedness. So it's the sense that I belong to a community, I belong to a group, and that boosts actually the motivation. And then it's the sense of autonomy. That's the sense that I can actually define, and I have an influence of the actions that I do within this framework. And that applies also to learning. So the sense that I can decide on some of the learning activities, or how to, what to study next, etc. So these people have proposed to use this, and these three factors can affect both extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. And then they have chosen also to see whether the flipped classrooms help in better managing cognitive load for the students. And that is the factors that they proposed that influence that was the tailoring to expertise. So we can tailor the class according to the different levels we have among our students, but also the self-pacing, as we will see. So as I said before, intrinsic motivation is inherent motivation, which exists without the need for rewards. And then the theory is less concerned about what causes this intrinsic motivation. So, I'm motivated to learn, as a person, but rather studies the conditions that elicit or diminish this type of motivation. So maybe I'm very motivated to learn, but the conditions, make me less motivated, although, I have this intrinsic motivation. While extrinsic motivation, as I said, is a socially generated motivation, often occurring due to social expectations or possible rewards for certain actions or behavior. Of course, the extrinsic motivation can be variable or autonomous. It can be the reward can be something of self-determined value, like I may say, okay, I don't like to exercise, but because I want to participate in a marathon, I have to do that. Or I don't like to study mathematics, but because I know that this is going to be a very useful tool in my professional life, I do that. On the other hand, it could be something completely external. So I may do that just because my teacher gives me candy whenever I fulfill one of my mathematical assignments or something. And here I have a slide. I don't know if we have the time for that, but I was thinking to have a discussion whether this is intrinsic or extrinsic motivation. So some students may complete an assignment because they find the subject interesting, or they enjoy the process of completing it. So is this intrinsic or extrinsic motivation? And I cannot see the chat, but I hope that it makes sense that this is intrinsic. So these people are intrinsically motivated to study the subject. Some students may complete the same assignment because they were instructed to do so by their teacher. So is this intrinsic or extrinsic motivation? I hope that you understand that this is extrinsic motivation, and actually this is also externally extrinsic. So they do it because someone else told them to do so. The last one, some students may complete an assignment because they will improve their understanding of the subject, and that will increase their chances of finding employment in the future. So that is extrinsic, but with a self-determinate and high autonomous reward. So it's the students themselves, although they don't find maybe the subject interesting, they don't enjoy it that much, but they decided themselves, that there is a reward, waiting for me. So they individually and independently said, okay, I have to do that. But this is still extrinsic because I need, this reward in the end. So by using this framework, these researchers have found that actually flipped classroom supports all this type of both extrinsic and intrinsic motivation, but also the better management of cognitive load. I think, they have talked a lot about that the flipped classrooms allow students time to internalize the material, because I can do it at home, I can do it on my own pace. I can rewatch some of the videos. I can decide, if something is difficult for me, I can decide to study also something else that I may be missing, from previous lectures or from a previous course, and that helps a lot, both in the sense of autonomy, in the sense of competence, and in the sense of better management of cognitive load. So I can decide the pace. Also, the increased interaction between students and teachers, that helps the sense of relatedness, so belonging to a group in a given context. And that is both intrinsic or extrinsic motivation. Also, the active learning can support the sense of competence, because I'm being active. I do things together with with support from my teacher or my peers, and that helps and can increase both intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Now, in terms of, as I said, flexible time and space is the better cognitive load, and yeah, I think I covered that before. So now, the flipped learning in mathematics, the nature of mathematics and STEM subjects in general supports the use of technology, because there are nowadays many tools, visualization, online resources, where students can get as a preparation material. Also, as I said, videos explaining. By the way, there is often a misconception that the flipped classroom has to, for implementing a flipped classroom, I have to record a whole lecture, what I would usually do in my class, and then upload this for my students. This is not right, actually, because nobody would be able to follow a video for 1 hour, maybe 2 hours in a row. The idea is that of course, you can have videos recorded by you or even by other persons. Actually, research has shown that there's not such a big difference, but it has to be 5 to 10 minutes max, and these videos have to cover maybe what you consider to be the most important concepts or aspects or clarifications. So the rest can be done in other ways, but not having too long videos and expecting the students to actually engage with that. It's very important for educators to support students when they are actually applying the theoretical knowledge in practical problems, which is very often the case in mathematics. So flipped classroom allows the teacher to be there when students struggle actually with the assignments or the projects. And also peer learning is also supported. So maybe stronger students can help, more students who are challenged, etc. As I said, the flipped approach has been applied to medical students for many years. Also STEM students, as for instance, if you have lab preparation sessions. So, you give some preparation to the students before coming to the lab, so they, they can work with equipment and they know what to do. As I said, the research has found benefits of this approach. As I said, better cognitive load, motivation, learning on their own pace, time to work with equipment available in classroom, if this is the case. Sick or absent students can also watch the lectures and follow, promotes reflection inside and outside of the classroom, students actively learn in the learning process, and hopefully taking ownership of their own learning. And this actually, as we will see, it's one of the challenges also. Now, for the teachers, the benefits are actually, as we say, the flipped classroom moves away from the guide, from the sage on the stage teacher to a guide on the side. So it's actually a paradigm, a cultural shift that has to happen. So I'm not, the one always disseminating the knowledge and all the others listen to me, but I'm someone who supports students learning. And then teachers may get better insight into student difficulties, because they can actually see them when they try to apply the knowledge, can easily customize and update the curriculum, because you can see how students prepare. If some parts, especially if you have some self-assessment activities during preparation, you can see which topics have been difficult for most of the students, and then maybe take them into the lecture and explain a bit more. The teachers have reported also increased levels of student achievement, interest and engagement, and also they get more time to spend with students in authentic research and learning, and of course the social interactions are also very important. Now the challenge is, as I said, one of the biggest challenges is that it assumes that students taking responsibility and actually do the preparation. And that takes time, I think, as we have experienced. So it does take time for students to realize that this is what they have to do, that they just don't show up in the lecture. And as we will discuss some ways to dissipate this issue. In the beginning, it's time consuming to prepare a flipped classroom, because you have to rework and redesign the whole course. So you have to decide what is what has to move as a preparation, maybe record some videos or find resources, or actually both, and also decide what kind of activities now make sense to do in the class and after the class. Then in some cases, actually for the teachers, when the students prepare, they are not able to follow the comprehension and provide maybe just-in-time information during these preparation sessions. As I said, of course, there are ways, for students, maybe you can have some feedback sessions where students can say, okay, this is tricky, I didn't understand that, etc., or just by self-assessment, but still this can be an issue. And as I said before, it's a paradigm shift both for teachers and for students. So it does require, at least as I saw, at least 2 to 3 iterations. So doing this course for 2 times at least, in order to really, as a teacher, get used to the new approach, but also for your students. And I think it's more important actually for the teacher to get used. Now, how to assure students preparation. So pre-class quizzes and tests have been used for that reason. So students have to do some, quizzes, so they can see how they score. So have I understood the most important part of the material? Games and gamification have been used for that also. Pre-class activities, part of final assessment. This is a way to a bit force the students. So, students can get either extra points in the grade, or maybe they, like a part of the final grade is the pre-class activities. In that way, students realize the importance, maybe. And then another way to assure is actually, since most probably the preparation on online platform, you can actually have analyze the student activity online and and see if some students are inactive, or some activities in general they are not followed, then you can, step in as a teacher and either contact specific students or in general the whole class. So now I want to say a few things about games and gamification and how this can be how this can support flipped classrooms. So what is a game? I will say a few things about the definition. A game has rules, variable quantifiable outcomes. So that means I have different, options of ending the game, and these are I can quantify, these outcomes. So one is better than the other in that sense, and then valued outcomes. So some of the outcomes are winning outcomes and some of them are losing outcomes. Player attachment to outcomes is also a feature of a game. So as a player, I have an outcome attached to me, and then effort. So I have to do some effort in the game to reach specific outcomes. And then I have, Miller also proposed 3 other parts like strategies and actions. So like random actions like, throwing a dice, or, actions of other players may affect, my outcome in the game. So gamification is an umbrella term, but in general, it means that we use game mechanics and game elements to improve user experience and user engagement. So it's both about experience and engagement in non-game services and applications. So it could be digital environments or real world context. So it can be both digital games, but also board games, for instance. And it's not only adopted in education, it's also adopted nowadays in marketing. So, you try to gamify maybe an e-shop or buying, so people get to buy more. In human resources for training, also onboarding, when you want to hire people, fostering creativity and, for instance, for design, generation of ideas also can be gamified. It's not only for education. I want this to be clear. So we talked about gaming elements. So what are the gaming elements we can, adapt? We talk about mechanics. As I said, reward schedule, storytelling, progression, etc. It's measurement. So how do I measure like performance or the quality of the actions I take or the outcomes in the game, the time I have, etc. It's about behavior. So what kind of behavior is expected from me in the game? So engagement, competition, cooperation, problem solving, etc. So I may have some of these parts, to gamify, for instance, learning, and then rewards. So, and I want to mention all this because when we talk about gamification, most people think about rewards. So, okay, I give points to the students. This is the obvious of option, but it's not the only option. Yes, so I may have, a narrative also for students to follow in a learning process. I may have competition, I may have cooperation and other things, not only rewards. So, and this is the slide explaining that. So I think I have to skip that because I'm already out of time.
No, you are not out of time. Go ahead. Go on.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Kostas. Because I think I have to rush a bit. I have, I think, like 10, 12 slides more. So there is the rewards-based gamification that focuses only on rewards and gratification, as we saw. So focuses only the bottom left part of the circle, and that's the obvious choice and maybe the easiest, to implement. But that we have to keep in mind that this is mostly boosts extrinsic motivation. So this is something actually that maybe does not last actually in the longer term. So meaningful gamification does not rely only on rewards, but also it integrates player-created narratives, authentic player-based experience, and reflection through debriefing. So after playing a game, I can reflect on what I did, how I cooperated, the actions I took, and then this is called debriefing. And meaningful gamification also sustains intrinsic motivation. As we said also for the flipped classrooms, we cannot really, create, at least the self-determination theory does not describe how to create intrinsic motivation, but at least we know how to sustain it and maybe increase it. And then high levels of self-determined motivation also. So extrinsic but self-determined motivation. Now, game-based learning. So these are two terms that are oftenly, used for the same reason, but they are not the same. So game-based learning is actually using games, not gaming elements, but real games in order to, in that case, for learning. So we integrate real games, either custom games or commercial games, to stimulate motivation and problem-solving skills in learners. So usually we have three options when integrating game. One is to have the students building game from scratch as a learning process. Mathematics have, like I think Papert was the first one, to have this game with a turtle that moves around, and he has used that to induce actually mathematical concepts to children. So mathematics was one of the first topics when games were applied. Then we can have games that educators or developers specifically build for educational purposes, to teach students. And then we can also integrate, as we call them, commercial off-the-shelf games into the classroom. The abbreviation, we will use it later on, COTS, just that you know. So for instance, nowadays many schools use Minecraft for educational purposes and actually for mathematics. So this is an example of a commercial game, existing game integrated into learning. And game-based learning usually involves a serious game. So especially when we have custom-made games for educational purposes, we call them serious games, just that you know, because this is a term that is oftenly used. And a serious game is not a game exactly that it's serious, but it's a game where the education is the primary goal rather than the entertainment, so that it has a very clear educational purpose. And we call this serious, just that you know. And research actually has found different benefits of using games in education. First of all, when we are playing a game, some researchers on game research have described this flow state. It's the state where we are immersed in the game, and it has been found that this state also releases chemicals in the brain that both that actually it's hormones, when we are feeling creative and also content, and that can enhance learning, also the learning process. Games can also improve solving skills like the imagination, the deduction, spatial thinking, etc. It's an opportunity to practice with relevant feedback, because in the game, as we said, there are always consequences. So I take this step and then I face the consequences, either good or bad. There are rules, there are, as we say, different outcomes. So I may, experiment with different actions, and then I see the result of it. And then the sense of purpose also. Now I want to discuss how to use game or gamification games in the different sessions of a flipped classroom. So for pre-class sessions, the games have been used extensively, first of all, to ensure that students will engage with the pre-class online learning material and come to class prepared. So both gamification aspects, like, fulfilling some of the achievements, may get you point, but also you may have like a narrative, that you have to do that. I don't know, you have a mission to fulfill, fill, and then in order to do that, as we will see in some examples, you have to go through specific learning material, etc. You can have also levels, like because you did that and you did also the previous assignment or the previous lecture preparation, then you move to another level, and then maybe you get also some rewards. Also, you can track down the students' progress and allow students to monitor their own progress and also visualize their learning goals. So you can have a dashboard like in the game, or about the things I have fulfilled, my achievements, let's say. If you use Duolingo, you may see how they structure, the parts, like the different lectures, and if you have completed that, it becomes gold, etc. You can also embed learning material within a serious game to support student engagement with the material. And you can also prepare for simulation or role play games. So, and that process is called briefing as opposed to debriefing. So, because many researchers do like games in the in-class sessions. As remember that we talked that the in-class session is a part when students can work together and we can have active learning. So playing a game actually is an active learning activity, and the preparation can be actually the preparation for this game or a simulation, as we call game. The simulation, and I'm going to explain here. So the simulation games are actually games that are played, for instance, in medical studies. They may have a simulation game where they simulates a model, the reality, but maybe a model of it, so an abstraction of it. So they may simulate, that they are doing a surgery, or they have a patient and they try to diagnose the patient and all that. So for the in-class sessions, games have been also used, and especially board games or digital games to boost collaboration in class, test learners preparation. So I may have a gamified quiz or other stuff, or a small game to see if actually the students followed the preparation out of class, enhance engagement and motivation, and also problem solving, enhance problem solving creativity, cognitive flexibility, and cooperation with role playing or simulation games. Now, about post-class, I think so far the research has a bit neglected the post-class session. So we have very few incidents of gamification and games-based learning, but in case we have, it's mostly debriefing, as I said. So it's about reflecting on playing the game, probably in class. Also it can create a continuum, like if you fulfill the whole thing, like pre-class, in class, and post-class, then you go a level up. So this is the leveling, for instance, thing. Now, I want to show now here some examples about gamification and game-based learning, actually more game-based learning in the flipped classrooms. So many people have used learning management systems as Moodle to implement gamification, like scores, levels, and badges, because in Moodle you can also have like, some learning goals, and then for reaching these goals you can have activities, and then once you fulfill that, it's ticked, and so you can have also the sense of progression. Then commercial games used pre-class, for instance, as I said, Minecraft. Angry Birds has been used actually for teaching students mechanics and the physics and how Angry Birds, I don't know if you are aware, but it's a game where you can throw birds to some buildings that some bad and mean pigs built. So depending on the angle, you know, and the distance and how the structure, how the building is constructed, you have different results. So there has been research on using Angry Birds for that. Serious games used pre-class, for instance, the Protégé is a game where that was used for teaching English actually, but the story is that there's a professor going missing, and then there is a protégé, a student who tries to find, and then in order to find this person, you have to read clues in English, for instance. That's the narrative I was referring to before. Then we have serious games for in class, like the trip to Beidou Sulfur Caves. That's also for language teaching. Again, you had to, you know, you go on a mission and you have to read, but you know, you may have to complete different, you know, parts of going into mission. So it can be used, the same idea, for other topics, also mathematics. Simulation games used for exercise-based practice, like coding game is a game for programming, which can incorporate also mathematical concepts, because you can program, you know, a mathematical formula or you know, other parts. And then role-playing games or situational problem-based games, like in medical education, as I said before. And of course, as we move from gamification to role-playing, we have a better, you know, we have an increased authenticity of the representation, as we said. So the experiences are more authentic, you know, as we move from scores and badges to, for instance, role-playing. And here I think, as I said, so I think this covers more or less what I said before. So you can boost also collaboration, with games. So if you have groups in classes, you may, for instance, there's a research here that people have used tokens to these groups, and then, you know, in order to ask a question to the teacher, you use a token. So you try first to, you know, solve it yourselves, and then you raise your hand, or then the groups can compete with each other about providing solutions to specific problems, etc. So and here I have some tools, just, you know, for creating. This is tools, first of all, for supporting flipped classroom. So tools to create a video lecture or an audio lecture, which is also, or an interactive video, etc. I won't go into detail, but you can find the slides online. Also like for collaboration, for quiz or poll learners, etc. And then I have some digital tools for gamification. In case, you know, you want to experiment a bit. Maybe, of course, the easiest choice is to start, as I said, with gamification and rewards, maybe based, but you can also think how to move towards more authentic experience for your students. Thank you very much. I hope I didn't take too much of your time. And if there are any questions, I think later on I will be very happy to answer, or at least I will try.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Evangelia. If you please stop sharing the screen.
Yes, I will try to do that.
We are going to use some of the gamification that you mentioned during the next lecture from Israel, yes, and Rodrigo. However, that you have introduced us to the Mentimeter. You have not included Mentimeter. So since, yes, my first time that I visited your university in Aalborg, I checked Mentimeter, and so, you know, I'm a customer now of Mentimeter, and I'm using it a lot. So for the next lecture, please be ready to register, to open. I shared with you on the chat. I think I shared it with all of you. No, no. Let me check. Let me check to everyone. So be able for the next lecture that comes from our colleagues from Spain, from ULL, to have opened this website, Menti.com. I will provide you then with a username to be able to play with our next lecturers. Bon appetit, London. Yes. So we are ready to play this kind of game. So thank you very much, Evangelia. As Evangelia has mentioned, I have some questions from Evangelia, but I will keep them, you know, for the next for the Q&A session. So let's move now, after we thanks again Evangelia, let's move to Rodrigo and Israel. I don't know if Rodrigo and Israel are with us. I hope
Yes,
that
yes.
they are.
Here we are. Here we
All
are.
right. So you have the permission. Let me be ready because your questions are open type questions. So I have prepared the 2 Mentimeter questionnaire in order to run. Whenever you will tell me, we are going to stop sharing your screen, and then I will share my screen in order to run the Menti.com.
Okay, so let's start. Thank you very much, Costas. Thank you.
I didn't say anything. So Rodrigo and
No.
Rodrigo and Israel, like, you know, they are professors in the University of La Laguna in Spain, also a part of the item. They are experts in how to use technology, ICT, you know, along teaching mathematics. So we are looking forward to listening them. So more things from Israel and Rodrigo. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Costas. Let's share my screen. Maybe you can see it now.
Yes, we can see, and I think that the presentation of
Okay.
Evangelia and Israel are also available through our website.
Okay, so thank you everybody to be here this morning. And as Costa said, my name is Israel Garcia. I'm here with my colleague, Professor Rodrigo. We are going to tell you some example where we can use the technology in the class, in the math class. Well, in this example, we are going to use the ICT as a support for that give our students the opportunity to improve conceptual and mathematical knowledge and develop the competencies and skills that are required for the professional world. For that, we are going to talk about project-based learning, and that will be the method that we promote to use in our classes. Before anything, we need to illustrate the frame where this example is. As you know, the main objective in the mathematical classes should be to promote learning in the students and give them tools to solve the problems that they will face too in their professions. But you know that sometimes it's very difficult, and we don't use the ICT. Why we don't use it in the classroom? It's not an easy question, and we have to have a look to the regular math classrooms. Normally, in mathematical classes, or the mathematics classes follows a traditional teaching pattern in which the teacher shows a mathematical tool, use it to solve the problems by himself as a model of its resolution, and offers students several similar problems to solve. By the end of the semester, he takes a test that measures the amount of information that the students have. And we also check his ability to follow all the steps done by the teacher when they solve the similar problems. If we have a look at the school supplies that there are in the classroom, we can realize that it has not changed in recent years. We have blackboards, books, calculators. Maybe now, as an innovation supply, we have a projector. And in the last year, because of the remote learning, we have cameras to record the teacher while solving a problem on the board or showing the students the same problems we made before the pandemic, but now on a stream. If we have a look carefully, in recent years, we can see other school supplies in classrooms. Maybe maybe we don't have it, or we haven't paid enough attention to. I mean, the students have their own computers in the classroom, which are connected to internet and to resources of their university and the network available everywhere in the campus. They also have mobile phones, in some cases with the same capacity or even more capacity than computers. These devices have also a camera, run programs, and are connected to network almost everywhere. And they use social networks every day that allow them to know their world, but also what happens around any aspect that triggers their interest, even in the field of science and maths, physics. All this is a huge source of knowledge for students and a very powerful tool for teachers that unfortunately we are not opening the door of our classes and let this come in. We are afraid of losing control over the learning and worry if we don't teach as always, showing the math rules and check the key, you know, all the math rules and the students have to know. But are we sure that students know more and better with these traditional methods? Should we be at the classroom turning our back to technology? And what is more important, is it so difficult to integrate ICT in our classes and guarantee the learning of our students? In this sense, the European Union is worried about higher education. The European Union published this book called The Trends in Learning and Teaching European Higher Education. We can see there that the European policies and instruments are oriented to promote the development and the implementation of learning outcomes as a source of information about the students' progress. They select the learning focusing students as a methodological strategy that manages to implement the students' skills. It also considered that the process of collaboration and distribution of responsibilities between teachers, student services, and institutional leaders contribute to improve the quality of the teaching and learning process. All of this is achieved in a process of gradual changes towards flexible and digital education. But what does student-centered learning mean? Usually, as we said before, teachers are the ones who develop all the educational tasks and make all the decisions throughout the learning of their students. And finally, the student must show how much knowledge they have. But the new model wants students make decisions through his learning, and the assessment must now shows us the degree of the development of the learning outcomes. It is therefore an objective of the European Union that little by little, our higher education moves from teacher-centered teaching to student-centered teaching. But what about our classes? Sorry. How can we develop this type of teaching? This workshop gave us an example, or we try to give you an example of teaching where a student will be the principal actors and teacher is the guide of the process, which assesses the degree of achievement of the intended learning outcomes. The lecture is focusing on a study of different kinds of actions and its graphs, which is usually taught in a first-year course of math, science, or engineering. We cannot forget that we also should achieve some skills of the 21st century as critical thinking, problem solving, as others. And for that purpose, we introduced the problem-based learning as a methodological model to frame competence tasks and learning. Here we have a definition that project-based learning as an inquiry-based instructional approach that reflects the learner-centered environment and concentrates on learners' application of disciplinary concepts, tools, experience, and technologies to research the answers to questions and solve real problems. In PBL, or problem-based learning, is different to doing projects. Projects usually are developed at the end of the unit, once the teacher has presented the content and the students have to complete a series of activities. At that point, we use the project only to check the knowledge of our students. But PBL, the PBL, the instruction happens throughout the whole process, and the project does not take place at the end of the unit. It is not a closing product. It is offered from the beginning to engage the student to the content. Now the question, how to improve it in our classes? Literature gives us some clues. First, we need an entry event, an initial activity that connects that event with the PBL. It must be attractive and it in connection with the knowledge that the students have, but it also must open the window to discover a new learning. Secondly, we have to try, the driving question. The initial event gives us a good question that will guide all the intended learning and join us with an authentic problem that we try to solve along the project. The third step is the need to knows. We list all the knowledge that we already have to solve, or that we already have to solve the question, and also we list the knowledge we must need in order to answer the main question. This helps us as a teacher to control the knowledge we're going to improve. The next step is writing a project calendar. Since learning in PBL is a dynamic process, the teacher should be flexible and should create a flexible calendar. This is because we should know if the students control the needs to know, or maybe if they need to pay attention to let them access to the previous knowledge, for instance. So we have to be near with students learning, following as they learn. The next step is a scaffold instruction, which is the main core of the process. They are the steps the students will follow to solve the project. And in this step, it's very important to give the students the opportunity to build something new, an idea, an interpretation. In a math PBL, the products are as important as the process, so we have to pay special attention to the process that they follow. One way to organize the instructions is going through the different phases of problem solving in order to get the data and develop the process to solve the questions. Here we present some questions that could guide our reflection in scaffolding. What is needed? What needs to be in our solution? What are the possible solutions? So on. And finally, we have a very important part of the PBL that is the assessment. In this case, within the project rubric, is a good way to connect everything we said in the steps before. A rubric is a double entry table where we describe the explanation about the outcome learnings. But since the students also know the rubric, it helps them to know what we expect from them along the project. This is the power of the rubric. When we know what the others expect from me, I can reconduct my study to show the expectation. And now, it's time to see the example. My colleague, Professor Rodrigo Trujillo, will show us an example of PBL using ICT for teaching mathematics. Rodrigo, your turn. I'm going to...
Okay.
Okay. Here.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Here we are. I would like also to share with all of you some links useful for the my part of the presentation. Okay, you got it? And now, do you see my screen? Now is our turn.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. We are on time. Costas, be quiet because I think we are going to don't move too much the schedule. Thank you, Costas and Renate, for this opportunity and also support during my health recovery. And this opportunity has been very, very, very good for me. What Israel has been doing at this time is put all our proposal in a framework that you can use in order to generate more examples. That point that I am going to, the part of I am going to introduce is the exactly one mathematical example in order to apply all this scheme and framework. I ask to all of you open mind, flexibility. Don't think that this is a rigid classroom organization in order that put you totally agree or totally disagree. No, at all. If it's a flash of many ideas in order that you can use and start to think. Okay, this is our first reflection. Is our hidden agenda. What is the situation and what is the knowledge that we want to manage? What are our goals? This is the reflection, not by simply using one example in the book or thinking in one example that you read in some information that you think, oh, this can be good for my student, for my classroom for tomorrow. Please do start always with a deep reflection on learning outcomes, needs, because in that moment you are starting to understand what could be the barriers that your student can address in the moment that you start to teach. Okay, for us it's very important also that you have the ability to promote the examples and the problems in the classroom where you have the opportunity to talk with your student about the professional skills. We are thinking first year course on mathematics. This example is on calculus, but don't forget that they are going to be professionals in the next future. This is the driving question. We can propose problems that are exactly directly from the real life. Okay, if you connect, if you use the first link that I provide, you drive directly to this website. This website is the demand of energy in the island of Tenerife, my island. Okay, this is the Spanish, but you can move to wherever you want. Here you can see all the data that is the real demand of energy every 10 minutes is the data. This is the forecast, and this will be our goal in the teaching. And this is the program consumed that the system provides. In this moment, you are working and showing to the students with real data that you can see that you have the opportunity with the calendar, you have the opportunity to move to any day. So at this moment, you can choose for each student one day in order that they have to address similar but totally different real problems. And what you are asking to them is essentially what is, let me show you again the data, okay? This is for today, that is not published. This is the data from yesterday, okay? All our example is from data fixes in order that to prepare the talk from February. But now you can see, and every student can see what happened yesterday with the consumer. That are different.
Sorry, that the slide is not changing. So maybe if you are moving,
I am moving in the website. I am showing now the website.
No,
the real data is not working.
No, we only see the slide.
Yes, I mean, you should stop sharing the slide and you should start sharing your screen, Rodrigo, in order to check out and follow the website.
If I change the window, I have to go out and go in.
Yes, because if you are using a second screen, you should share the second screen.
In this moment, you see, if I change?
No, at this moment, we can see what are you sharing, which is a slide.
Okay. So in the slides, this is, sorry, people.
This is something that it's a challenge nowadays.
Yes.
Like how, the scholars to use the ICT tools and, be on accordance with the, how can I say, the era. Yes, now we can see. Now we can see.
Now, yes, I think I understood what is the problem. Okay, let me move this part. Okay. Oh, sorry, I start again. This is the link. This is the first link in the chat. Okay, this is the real data. This is the data from yesterday. Every 10 minutes is recorded the energy consumption in all the island. If you move different days, if you move to different days, you see that there are different, I got to move this bar here. This is the best place. You see that there are different shape, similar but different shape, similar but different shape. Every student can work with different. Okay, so now what we are going to do is to follow. Now we back to the presentation. Is okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so we have real data. We have 3 lines. We have the yellow one, that is the real demand. This is on the day of this 20th of February. The forecast, that is the green curve. That will be our challenge, because that is what we are going to define as our, and for the company, the best predictor of the energy consumption. And here you have the opportunity to introduce the student why this is necessary, why the mathematics is necessary to solve, to advance problems, to advance this spike, this maximum, to understand when we have this minimum, how it's going to move, and so. The red line that appear, this step function, give you the opportunity also to discuss the difference of the shape of the function. Okay, our interest is on construct this demand forecast function from this real data. At the beginning with this problem, neither a student is going to give you the solution, because it's very complicated. But the solution is very easy when you get it, because we are going to construct rational functions. This is the technical report that you provide to the student in order to prepare the classroom, to understand what is the data, to understand. Think that at this time you are providing them professional reports that increase the quality of your teaching, of your classroom. That is something that they can share with family, with friends, and try to discuss that they have learned something about engineering, about energy with the student in the mathematical classroom. Okay, here we are going to send you, if you understand more or less what is our goal, what is the goal of the project, a few questions. Here, Costas, is your time in order to answer this first reflection. We are not going to see the results. We are going to collect and then make for us an analysis in order to get what were your starting point in our sessions. Okay, so Costas, please send the question: which knowledge and skill do the student needs to study this, how to address the activity to develop those skills, how the activity will be addressed. A few words. We are not going to ask you a long discussion, just your first impression in order to realize for us if you think that you can manage this in your classroom, in your regular classroom. Please, Costas, a few minutes in order to answer this.
Okay, so please stop sharing the screen in order to share mine.
Okay.
Because I have done this in the Mentimeter. So please stop sharing in order to start to share. So all of you, I will send you to the chat again, to which website you should go. It's menti.com. Okay, this is like, what did I send you? And I will send you now, I will share with you my screen, and you will have the code. So in the meantime, please go there. Let me, so it's the first part, that 4 slides. So I hope that you can see my screen is loading. So let's see so the code presents, let's start to present the thing. So the code that you should use is like 81804909. So go to the www.menti.com, use this code 81804909, and you will be able to view, hi Costas, I told you before, okay. These are something else. If you are able, are you in the Menti.com? And use this code. It's just like go to www.menti. Okay, functions. We can start to see, you know, the reflection of the participants, which mathematical knowledge and skills do the students need. Functions. What should we do? This is actually, you know, something that we train our students to take them as the initiative, like to lead their learning. It's something that I think that Evangelia and also Israel and Rodrigo has stressed a lot with this BBL approach, but it's not the only one. Input, output, relationship. Which mathematical knowledge and skills? All right, I don't know what do you mean by relationship. It reminds me. So function diagrams, basic function computation, distance measures. Since we are more than 90, I think that we should have more feedback than 90. Okay, it takes some time. Please mute your microphone. It is important. So we can see people are starting to reply and scrolling down the solution, the answers. I hope that you can see my screen. And then later on, Israel and Rodrigo, I will share with them and with all of you, you know, I will share Rodrigo's and Israel perception. Confidence, yes, confidence. Confidence comes from knowledge. The more you know, the more confident you are. So it's work. I think that Einstein mentioned that, you know, in order to reach good results, it's 98% sweat, which means working, and only 2% brilliant minds. All right, so it's up to us to progress. Work, work, work. Numerical analysis, function, critical evaluation, knowledge of digital tools. The basic problem I see is their independence. This is a big skill that I would like them to have, but we should teach them. Stop, you know, I had this bad habit. I will share with you my experience. When I started my PhD, because this is the way, probably the educational programs that I follow, I moved to St. Andrews in Scotland. So I was the only PhD student at the beginning that I was asking my postdoc everything. Can I go to the toilet? I was asking my postdoc. You know, I was not free. From the moment that I got independent and I could do whatever I want in the lab, I progressed. All right, so, you know, the initiative from the students is very important, but we should teach them to be independent.
Okay, Kostas, I think we can pass to the next question.
To the next question, okay.
Yeah. So, it's very interesting. That is what we think. What are your reflections when you present a new challenge for your classroom?
Okay, so this is the next one. How can we address the activity to develop those skills? This is the second one. So I will place a start countdown, 1 minute or more. So how can we address the activity to develop those skills?
Everybody's frozen.
It's frozen? No. They start. It takes some time for them.
Great. Thank you, people.
I hope that you can see the feedback, no? Because I have also the control panel.
Okay, next.
Next one. How do you develop an evaluation for the activity? I can see people, they are still reading from the screen. I can see people reading. So Israel and Rodrigo, if you would like to elaborate a little bit about the question, it will be very helpful. Yes.
Yes. Okay, I don't want to make too much influence because our interest on this was is more or less the general idea when you propose a new change on the activity that you are used to do in the classroom. You have to manage the change in the classroom, but also you have to manage the change in your department with your colleagues, the colleagues that are teaching with you the same classroom that you share some hours with them. So you have to introduce an innovative way of teaching, and then you have to address all this. You have to make a previous reflection, interchange ideas, and make participant to all the stakeholders related with your classroom. Okay?
So you will tell me when to move to the next one.
Yes.
Should I move to the next one?
Yes,
Okay.
please. Yes, please. Yes.
Which will be the learning outcomes shown in the activity. I think this is the last one from this part of Rodrigo and Israel engagement. This is a gamification, by the way. I hope that Evangelia is here. Voting and stuff like this is a gamification using Mentimeter, but also, you know, the other tool that Evangelia has mentioned, the Kahoot, is more gameful. It's like more appropriate for games, I would say.
Seem for example, that with this activity, you can translate completely to your classroom. You provide to the student the open question, you provide the technical information, you establish the driving question, and you first open a brainstorming of a student. And you identify what is the level of the general classroom in order to address that. Mm-hmm. They are expecting that you provide the solution, and you have to explain the solution is going to be built by you. I am only here to avoid that you go to the fault and drop.
So you will tell me when you would like to continue.
Okay, finish. Okay, let's go.
Finish? Okay.
Yes, okay.
I stop sharing. So the floor is yours now to continue with Rodrigo. Rodrigo, please share your screen.
Okay. Thank you, Costas. Okay, let's see. Let me see. This is the question that we posed. We asked for a predictor, and we are going to discuss what is the best predictor. This is the final solution. But in middle, you have the opportunity to address analysis of real data, first attempts by hand, linear, quadratic, PSY construction, trigonometric, exponential, and finally, and that is what we are going to concentrate, we are going to work with ICT tools. Here we have a proposal, preparing a project calendar of 4 sessions. Don't be afraid. 4 sessions don't mean exactly 4 following days in a week, because this kind of gives you the possibility to work with different topics in your curriculum of your calculus course, and then back to this problem in different moments. First session in the first 2 weeks after you work with then real numbers. Then later, when you work with basic functions, you back again to dedicate 1 session to study this problem. During that time, the student can understand better and better what is the goal. They have no solution at this time. This is the timeline in the classroom, in all the course, that we are going to solve finally this problem. In middle appear many questions that we are solving, by the way, using the content that you have explained in the classroom. Or you can decide to do this at the end all together, and in order that review topics that you have been taught at work earlier. Okay, don't think exactly only one organization. Okay, this is the support that you are going to provide to the student. That is what in PBL design is called is calling a scaffolding instruction. What is the need of the problem? What do you need to be in our solution? What are possible solutions? That is the question that you are going to use in order to manage the behavior, the answer of the student. Okay? We are in the first session, we are going to make the analysis of the real data, download the data. So, and we repeat that we are going to construct the green function, the green line. This is the example of activity for one session, one or two or several sessions that you concentrate. You promote activities in order to drive the students and waiting to achieve some learning outcomes. That is something that you have to prepare. Don't improvise, don't make improvisation in all the classroom. Have clear what is the goal of this session, the question that you promote. Okay, this kind of sheet, the scheme are in all the presentation. We are prepared a presentation complete in order that you can share with your colleague, you can use in your classroom, in order that use later and promote the use. Okay. If you go to the website, you can get all the data. I'm going to share. Here appear the data. You see the website, the data?
No.
No?
No.
Sorry.
Only the slide.
This is the slide. Okay. This is the slide. Okay, I think I got it. Now you have the data. You can change. Here is the graphics, and here you have the data. So in this way, in this web, you have the opportunity to download in this format. This may possible to you to also practice with the students all these digital skills involved with mathematics. Okay, so you have the possibility to work with the students more actions. We back to the presentation. This is the kind of question that you can propose, which interval contains all the data. There are 3 plots. We have to analyze all this information. You see that we can ask then how is the structure of that plots, irregular, non-smooth, step function, something that you have been working with the student in the classroom. Okay, you can move all the data to a spreadsheet. Here I have also the link. You have the link in the chat. Okay, in order to in order to start to manage the data. You are only a viewer. You have only the possibility to the student to make acting on the data, to manage, to represent, to repeat the data, and understand where are that graphics that appear on the website that you can reproduce, and so. Here appear also the problems of interoperability of the data. So that is another experience for a student. When you get real data, you have to take control of the interoperability, the point, the comma, the decimals, and so. Okay, here for session 2 or session 3, at this time we are not creating almost nothing. We are only watching the data, analyze the data, and really taking conclusion. At that moment, you can start to work with the students and the data in order to start to think what kind of best approximant can you use. This is the way to repeat and to work again with the basic functions, combination of basic functions, and how can they provide the solution. Okay, what do you need to construct a line, 2 points? What do you need to construct a quadratic polynomial, we need 3 points. How will be the possible to do it? Okay. Something interesting for me is that in some moments, some student can understand, okay, if the data has that shape, we can try to use for some part one construction, for another part another kind of function, and then make sense with PSY functions. PSY function in general calculus course only appear to study continuity derivability as a very, very theoretical problems. Now you have the opportunity to try to understand that the PSY function provides solution to real life problem. This is the way to connect the basic mathematics of what we teach every year for 2 centuries to connect with real problems. Okay. Here you can start to introduce the solution that you are looking for. You can analyze if there are some people that understand that rational functions can be a solution. In general, you work with rational function in every calculus courses. You use all the tools, derivative tools, to make the plots of rational function. You study limit. You study optimization, maximum, minimum, increasing, decreasing areas, whatever. But in general, the idea of rational function stopped there. You propose, they study what you ask. Now we try to make understood to the student that the rational function answer exactly to some problems. Okay. In general, when they try to use the lines, quadratic combination with trigonometric, with exponential, they might see that it's not so affordable that we are going to solve the problem with this function. Okay, this is what you are, what you want to do. You want to work with rational function. This is your reflection on the deep learning that you want to get with your student. Okay, and I have made special mention. I think in you see in the books that rational function appear, as I say, limit, plot, even in high school, in integration, but there are not too much real life application where the student can identify that rational functions solve real problems. Okay, here we are going to move to Desmos. Okay, Desmos will provide us the solution without too much numerical calculation effort in order to help the student to understand where is the solution, why do you mean solution, and know exactly how we construct. In some of your answer appear regression. That is what we are going to use, but we are not going to explain the basic of regression to provide all the ways to find the solution. We are going to make a first approximation in order to manage this. If we use this, you see this?
No, the slide.
Only the slide. Okay, okay. I know what I have to do. Sorry, wait a moment. Now,
okay.
the data is in. This is Desmo. Desmo is a platform open. Sorry, let me move. Let me move the bar. Okay. It's a platform in order to generate graphics and operation. Here in this point, you can download all the data and just simple cut and paste the data in the cell. In that moment, you get all the representation. This can be done by every student in the laptop in the classroom very easily. So you have all the data on your plot. And now we introduce the regression only with this simple. This one. Here the data is presented x1, e1. This is the key. We have to construct, and listen, you introduce here the way, the function prototype that you want to use in your regression. In the first example here is lines, polynomial first grade. Here we combine polynomial first grade with exponential. Here we find polynomials with trigonometric functions. Here you review with your student what is the general expression of a function. And he answered the coefficients that provide the best approximate. Here you have the opportunity to introduce, to discuss, to give the same idea, the first idea on what means this regression coefficient. When you plot the residuals, you make visible visualization of the concept, visible. What means the first idea that the student will agree all in your classroom? That red line is very poor approximation of the real data that are the green points. Exactly when you measure all the distance, all the difference of the red line with the data, you see that the difference is more or less the data. What you are doing is that this is a very bad approximation. You use now with exponential, you get some shape. You use now polynomials with trigonometric functions. You can delete, remove, and you can see how is the behavior of that difference. Now appear the difference. All this study made possible to you and your student to identify functions, to relate with real data examples, and understand what is the meaning of this coefficient. In the moment that you fix one number, modify completely all this. This is the way to understand what is the behavior, what is the meaning of each coefficient when you construct function. This possibility to construct several, many functions provide you a better way to understand the concept of function. Okay? Now, we're back to our presentation. Oh, sorry. Here is what I have shown you. This is the explanation. How do we generate all this? Okay, in order that you quiet at home and in your office, you can repeat what we have done. And the possibility is to study the behavior of coefficients, what is the mean of residuals, they are squared. So you have a first approximation to interpolation, to regression, without missing too much time, only by experimental. Okay? This is the real, very good solution, and this is the final part of our talk. When you introduce a general expression of a rational function, you will see, after checking the previous example, that you get the better regression coefficient. You have been training with the student to understand how have been changing all this. Okay, I am more or less on time, 47 minutes. Okay, so this is the best coefficients in order to manage this. I will open, this is the link. All this link provide you, sorry, wait a moment. Now, this is the link. If you modify the function, you can choose the polynomial. I'm going to move only one degree. Here you can do this if you have access to this. Sorry. Something that happened. Okay. I don't see what's going on. Here, sorry, the exponent was making fun. I have changed the degrees. You have the possibility to provide to the student several opportunities to understand what is the best. And here you have this number, the regression coefficient that is showing you how it's working. Forget the calculation, forget the numerical tedious calculation. You only are working with the student how functions solve real problems and how you construct the general function that you are searching. Probably they are thinking rational function, the sample of asymptotes, vertical lines, okay, the poles. Now you are deciding what is the solution of your problem. You remember that the best solution with this degree, I put this, I introduce bx1, he understands perfectly the way of typing. So this is not a barrier. The tool is not a barrier. And they have to know how to manage general functions. That is what we are providing. Okay, here is the data, the same data, and you have this. You have the opportunity to check some values that give you some idea of how it's working. Okay, I back again, sorry, to the presentation. I make some experiment that is modify the solution just exactly in only one coefficient and see how is the difference in order to make more understood the idea of the best fitting approximation. Okay, is still a rational function, and also called attention to the student that appear so different real numbers. All the examples that we used to manage with rational function are with entire coefficients, +1, -1, ±2. And here they understand that this kind of number, 1.66 10 to the 6, is real numbers that appear in real problems. Here you can see the residues. Okay, sorry, with the bar is always in the middle. The residuals, they have been checking the different examples. Okay, this is the time to finish for my part. Sorry. Wait. Oh, sorry. And exactly with this example, that is the solution, you have the opportunity to back to the regular study what you used to do with rational function. We don't miss that all we have done in the past with rational function is missing time, not at all. You can back and provide and ask to the student the usual question about increasing, decreasing, highest, but now considering a real life problem. Where is going to be the demand of energy, increasing, decreasing, the highest, and so. Okay, well, this is my part. Now I back with Israel to the most important, the assessment. Thank you. Sorry, I'm going to stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you,
I'm going
Kostas.
to share again.
Okay, we have to complete Israel within 5 minutes, because we are going to use your 1 hour.
Yeah, only a few minutes to talk about the assessment, because it's the last step we talked about before. And I think it's very important to think about how are we going to make the assessment, because it's the summary of all the reflections we made. It must develop throughout the whole process. As we have seen, there are a lot of learnings in the activity shown. All these learnings should be selected and written down in the needs to know step. And after that, as a teacher, the learning have different levels of importance in the course for me, for example. So I must select the ones I think are most important and right will show the learning. Here, we can see what we said, what we call as a rubric, and where we can see all the learning outcomes that we expect from our students, and we graduate in different levels the learning outcomes. For example, here we select, or I select the use and interpretation of the student express the mathematical relations and that appears in the problem, and the student's use of interpret of mathematically correctly the information shown in Desmos. So we have here the mathematical relation about the problem and the application, and what I expect from them in different levels. For example, the level 3 would be the highest level, where the student is able to define the problem, know the relation between the data, variation patterns, and is able to select correctly the function to approximate. And if the student is not very, or not do the exercise very good, we can select the level 1 when they have some problems. And the other learning outcomes could be the mathematical concept of the rational function that we can put or focus our evaluation or our assessment. And this is the rubric we can make. It's an example. So you can use another items from the activity and create a different, different rubric for the assessment. So in summary, our students have different resources that we had when we studied. We cannot be looking in another way. It's our responsibility to open the door, to let come inside all the stuff they use. We have the 21st century skills, need a different model of education to that which we received. And the European Union promotes the student-centered teaching model for higher education. So PBL incorporates everything we mentioned. We know it's not easy. We know that it's a challenge, but what would be mathematics without the challenges? So project-based learning, we hope that it would be a useful teaching method in a few years. So thank you very much for everything. And here is what we wanted to share with you.
Thank you very much, Israel and Rodrigo, for this nice presentation. It was, as always, as it was expected. So now it's the time for questions. So in case to do your questions, you can raise your virtual hand as Zuyunova has done, or you can type your questions to the chat. I prefer to start with Evangelia because Evangelia should leave us in a quarter. So if you have questions, let's start with Evangelia's presentation. Let's start with them. In case that you have a question to anyone, then we should move on as well. So let's give the floor to the first one, which is like Zuyunova. I'm sorry about my accent. So Zuyunova, the floor is yours. Please report to us to which presenter you would like to ask. Zuyunova, are you with us? So in case until our colleague will be back. You are muted now, Zuyunova. I cannot hear you. So if you wish to type your question into the chat. I have some questions to Evangelia first. So Evangelia, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, so I would like to ask you regarding the flipped classroom, how much more work, a scholar should do in order to prepare, the pre-class tests and engagement compared to the time that we spent in order to prepare, the traditional face-to-face. And if this can be managed by one scholar, don't tell me that you have assistants or stuff like this. In some countries, we don't have assistants. So
Yes.
this is my first question.
Yes, thank you, Kostas, for your question. I would say that it's manageable by one person. The thing is that there are two issues here. For instance, when we started implementing flipped classrooms, what we did that in a part of our course. Also to experiment, with how it would go. So you don't have to flip everything at once. So you can have some flipped lectures along the way, and then you can still keep a traditional part of your course. And the next year, you go forward with the feedback also you get, because as I said, many people get discouraged because they try the flipped classroom and then the first year it's a mess, they think. And then they say, this doesn't work for me and my students. And then I go back to whatever I was doing before. But I strongly advise everyone to try at least twice. I think the third time would be the winning time. And if you do it also like step by step, also, with some lectures first and then extending to more, then you would have more time to prepare things, on your own pace, because I understand, I know how busy, academics are nowadays. Another thing is that many people think that they have to do all the videos themselves, and all long videos, and also have like professional videos. This is not the case. You can have your own custom-made, non-professional videos with a few, mistakes. I mean, not mistakes on the material or on the explanations, but if you say the wrong word and then you correct yourself, that's also fine. It doesn't have to be professional. Research has shown that this is not important. And also, if you can find videos or resources out there which are exactly what you would do, there is no issue in borrowing that, pointing students there. For instance, many people use Khan Academy for flipped classrooms, because Khan Academy offers, explanations, screencasts, and all that. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I hope this answers your question.
So I will keep the message that we should be persistent within 3 academic semesters to try it, at least 3 times. And my question there is like, even if you are going to flip classroom, to apply the flipped classroom approach for 2 of the 12 lectures, let's say, you will see the impact?
Yes, first of all, you will see, you will get trained as a teacher. And you will see how difficult it is not to lecture. That was the first impression we had. And at that time, I was not the teacher, I was like the designer. So I was seeing the teacher having really issues on not lecturing when we were in the classroom. So that's why I say it takes time from both ends.
We try to apply this with a PhD student that he's among us, Yanis Sakellariou.
Yes.
So I hope that he will be patient, because I tried, to make flipped classroom all my lectures at once. So let's see how it will work. So there is a question from Johannes. Evangelia flipped classroom. How would you estimate the limits regarding the possible number of students, and could this circumvent it?
Yes, I think it depends. I mean, the number of students can be decided for the in-class activities. So when you want to apply, as I said, active learning activities, maybe group work. My experience is that this could work even with large classes. Of course, someone has think carefully how many people in a group, what kind of activities. In the worst case, you can also have individual assignments. It doesn't have to be group activities if you have too many students, because I think if you have group activities with too many students, you have to have also a classroom space that can accommodate that. So, having, being able to move tables, maybe, for the groups to work together, etc. So I don't know if people, have this in their lecture rooms. Sometimes we have fixed tables, and chairs, then you can't really move, furniture around. So I would say that definitely you can accommodate, and it has been used in the literature with big, class sizes without any issues. Of course, as I said, you have to think what kind of in-class activities then you engage your students with.
I don't know if we can speak with Suyunova now. I don't know. I mean, you still have your hand up. I don't know. Probably she has. All right. I have a second question to you, Evangelia, until another question will appear. Who does develop the games along GBL? Because for me, it's a nice idea. The only gamification that comes to my mind is the Mentimeter, more than Kahoot. Even Kahoot, as I mentioned, the environment, it feels more like a game. But I mean, do we have to work, or we should know some programming in order to use the Angry Birds? Or, I mean, who is doing this?
No, the Angry Birds is a game that was used as it is. So it's a game, and I mean, of course, you have to think what kind of activities make sense to have your students doing within this game. If, as I said, there are three ways. One is to have ready-made games incorporated into your classrooms. In that case, you just take the games and you think what makes sense, to use. Another thing is to develop your own games. There are in the resources I mentioned, I have some repositories, with where people upload some like gamified courses. There are some resources out there, but if someone wants a really custom-made game, then he has to create his own. But I want to say that it doesn't have to be a digital game, so not per se programming. One of the examples I mentioned was a science Trivial Pursuit. So it's like the typical board game, but then the cards and the questions were based on a science class. And then you can have definition for your students, and it can be in whatever topic. It can be physics or, mathematics.
Mentimeter and Kahoot are, very appropriate regarding
yes.
this type of game.
Yes, and the Kahoot has this, this point system, which is very gamified, because you can see on the fly how people move from question to question, and the faster you answer, the more points you get. So it's a bit more, competitive in a sense, and you can always include like multimedia, like images, videos, etc. But I think Mentimeter works also fine. So it's not a matter. It's a matter of choosing something for a specific activity.
And another question that comes is like in the middle time between asynchronous teaching in the flipped class and synchronous one, when the time comes to meet them in the class, is there any communication, and with whom?
Some people have done this. Some people, in order to support this out of class preparation, what they have done, they had like fixed, consultations, let's say, times with the teacher. And this was called like also a holistic flipped classroom. That was the term they used, as far as I remember. On the other hand, what you can have, and what I usually have in Moodle, for instance, you can have a feedback session. It's like a little survey. You can have a very short survey, 1 or 2 questions, and say, okay, what was difficult, what was challenging, and what was interesting, or whatever. And then if you ask for this feedback, at least you get some input, and then you can address this input in the beginning of your lecture.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So I will direct now my, are there any questions to Eva, to Evangelia? I cannot see if this is the case.
Eva.
I will read about this. And then I'm moving now to Rodrigo and Israel. And I would like to ask them, what happens if you don't have an access to real data, what are you doing?
there are a huge amount of real data of many countries and whatever. I think it's more interesting to collect data closer to the student. That is what idea to choose Tenerife, energy demand. In the moment that the student go back home and switch off the light, they understand that is the meaning of the curve. And so, but there are a huge amount. And after, sorry, the bad joke, after the COVID-19, you have a even more than huge amount of tons of data. Even you can open the debate on any subject, health, poverty,
Yes.
whatever, the millennium, the development sustainable objective are opportunity to discuss in the classroom in order to introduce transversal issues in order to promote the critical thinking, the reflection, the open mind to your student, and understand that at the university, the level of reflection is more deeper, more conscious, and so. Okay, I don't think that is the problem.
And do you think, Israel and Rodrigo, that GeoGebra or Mathematica or how do you name Desmos could be a part of a gamification? So it's part of a gamification. No, they have the data and they play around in order to realize the power of the functions that they learn, or how do they combine them using these visualization tools? Am I right?
Israel?
Well, I don't think it's real. You know, that you can use it as a gamification. It's a tool for knowing the graphs or the functions or whatever you are studying from maths. But gamification would be, how do you show how do you show the tools in the classroom? No, you can do it in a way that it's a game, or in a Kahoot or whatever. Then you can construct or build different questions that you can check if they know everything or not. Or maybe the student can build the questions to others. So then I think the tool itself is not a gamification, but you can use you can construct.
You can use it through a gamification game. Okay, all right.
Okay.
All right.
In the moment that you start to introduce some innovation in your classroom, you need, as Eva say, very iterations, very practice, even for us for teaching, to try to different courses in order to get the insight. Okay, if you are if you are expecting to be creative when in your first contact with the tool, it's very complicated. Only things what do your students when you offer a new tools, and they are not creative in the first moment. They need to train. So the same for you. Okay, so you start to train with the tool. You have to train with flipped classroom, with the gamification. You have to train. In some moment, you identify, okay, every people that have done a PhD remember perfectly the day that discovered that the sense of the meaning of the PhD was a whole, okay? Because sure that as everyone at the beginning, everything was so sparse, we don't understand what is our advisor is doing, and so, but someday, whop, everything collapsed to become a real world. I'm
still looking for this moment myself, but since you are positive, I will find it. Okay, so please, Victoria, do you have a question, Miss Ilieska, or it's just the microphone? Okay, I'm muted. So if this is the case, I would like to thank again Evangelia, Rodrigo, and Israel for the nice contribution. Rodrigo has mentioned a word, create. So I think that if we have together with us Professor Karsendi, it's time. You're here. Okay, very nice. So it's time to take a chance and grab what Rodrigo has mentioned, the verb creativity, create, and start with our next speaker, Professor Roni Karsendi from the Weizmann Institute of Science in Israel, to continue and finalize this first day of our seminar. So Roni, if you are with us, you can share your screen whenever you want.
Okay, thank you very much, Kostas. Thank you for inviting me here. I'm very honored. And let me just share my screen. I hope everyone is not too tired. It's always a problem to be the last one speaking today, but I will try to do my best to have you engaged. Okay, can you see my screen, Kostas? Yes. Okay, so I'll just say before I start that I would be very happy if you use the chat for writing any questions that you might have. Also, in a minute, I will ask you to write something else in the chat. So please try to be active as you can. I'm going to have today examples from elementary school through first-year university. And I know that the audience here are all university people, but you will be surprised how much we can learn from looking at even very, very simple questions at other levels and in regards to mathematical creativity. So let's start. Please look at these numbers, 15, 20, 23, and 25. And I would like to ask you to write in the chat, which of these numbers do you think is exceptional? That means different from the others, and say why, of course. Okay? So let's give it like 1 or 2 minutes. Okay. Okay, it's not enough to write the number. You have to explain why. Okay. Okay, great. I already see many answers. I'll only read the answers that have a justification. So 23, because it's not a multiplication of 5, or not divided by 5. 23, because it's a prime number. Again, not divide by with 5. 23. 23 is prime and not divided by 5. 23 is prime. Okay, here we have a different answer. 15 because it has 1. 15 because it's not 20s. 23 because it's odd. Okay, guys, you can do more than that. More answers that haven't been written before. Okay, try to justify something else. Okay, 20 because it is even. Already written several times. 25 because it is a square. Thank you. This is the first time that this answer appears. Okay, you can do more. 20 because it has a 0 in it. Great. Any more? I'm going to soon tell you that elementary school kids have done better than you, so please start writing more. I hope you can feel your brain warming up, even though this is a very simple question for elementary school kids. Okay, difference does not help me. Just Kostas, I see you freeze. Am I being heard? Kostas?
Yes, I can hear you very well.
Okay. Okay, here we have now a few more answers. If we add 5, then we have the next number except 23. Very good. 15 is not part of the arithmetic progression, right? Okay. I love this answer. Okay. There is a very, very, very interesting answer here, that if we have different answer, it means the task is not reliable. Okay, I'm gonna have to deal with this argument, which of course I do not accept. And for the moment, let's stop.
Hello, can you hear me? The problem comes from Ronnie or from our side?
I think from Ronnie Costas.
Yes, I think that she has.
Sorry, I think I got disconnected. I hope my internet connection will still remain stable throughout. Okay, I'm sharing the screen again.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Can you see and hear me?
Yes, now very clear.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's look at some of the answers given in this research by primary school students aged 10 to 11. So 15, because it's the only one that starts with 1, all the others start with 2, we had that answer. 20, because it's the only one that's even, all the others are odd, we had that answer. 23, because it's the only prime number, we had that answer. 25, because it's the only one that's a square number, we also had this one. 15, because it's the only one that divides by 3, we didn't have this answer here. 20, because it's the only one made of whole tenths, we didn't have this answer here. Now, what are the elements of this task? And I'm going to get back soon to this statement of the task not being reliable. First of all, this task is open-ended. Okay, then there are many, many possible answers, not just one correct solution. And I must say that if as a mathematics educator, I long got rid of the belief that in mathematics, there's only one correct solution. In fact, if we want creativity, as I will explain very shortly, we should strive for tasks that have more than one solution. Okay, and so writing that if a question has many answers, it is not reliable. This is, I would call it an attitude that actually bars creativity. And I would advise to maybe make our mind a little more flexible towards tasks that don't have just one correct answer. The question that I showed with the numbers, it enables discussion in classroom. Again, I'm still in primary school. Don't worry, I won't stay there. About several mathematical concepts, sorry. Odd numbers, even numbers, prime numbers, square numbers, divisibility, and etc. And it enables answers at different levels, from simple to sophisticated. Also, it is suited for all students in the classroom, low achievers as well as high achievers. This is a very important element. I will get back to that later. And in this research, students were very surprised that there was more than one correct answer, because from a very young age, some of our students learn that in mathematics, there is only one answer. But they were even more surprised when the teacher said to them, please find as many correct answers as you can. And this is not something that students from primary school throughout university are not used to hearing. And this is exactly what we call the gate to creativity. And now I'm going to move a little to some theoretical concepts that are meant to unpack this concept of mathematical creativity. But first, let's look at number of answers. So there were 164 students in this research. They gave 680 answers. The average was more than 4 answers per student, but the distribution was not even. There were 71% of those students that gave up to 4 answers. 22% gave between 5 to 2 different answers, and 7% gave more than 10 answers. This is what we call fluency. The construct of fluency means the number of ideas that a person can produce in response to one certain task. The more ideas you can give to the same task, it means that you have more fluency. And this is one of the key concepts in assessing creativity, and I'm referring to the classical Torrance tests of creative thinking that began to be spread out from the 60s. Nowadays, we have many, I would say, adjustments or improvements or differences in how creativity is defined. But in this talk, I will stick to the classical definition. And the classical definition claims that there are three key concepts in creativity, that if we have them, we are talking about creative mathematics. One is fluency, which I have already introduced, which is the number of ideas that the person can produce. The second one is flexibility, which is the ability to shift between different approaches or ways of thinking in response to a certain task. That is, not only I can give different answers, but they are significantly different from one another. And the last one, the last construct in the unpacking of creativity is originality. So this is solving problems in a unique, unconventional way, using unusual methods that other people have not thought about it. So some of you, when you put your answers in the chat, were original because they wrote things that other people in the same chat, in the same group, did not supply. Whereas most of the answers that we saw were repeating themselves, which means that it's not very easy to be original. You have to think hard to supply or provide an answer that someone else did not think about. And this is why originality is such an important element in creativity. Let's look at just one example of one student from this research. She wrote the following: 23 is the exceptional number because it's the only number that's made of consecutive digits. All other numbers make a sequence of numbers that grow by 5. 23 does not belong, and it's the only prime number. Why is this student then, according to the definitions that I just gave, considered as a creative thinker? Because she was fluent. She gave 3 different reasons for the same choice of 23. She was flexible because all three justifications are very different from one another. They're not all about divisibility, or they're not all about prime or odd, or they are made of different things. For example, the first one, it's made of 2 consecutive digits. It's a very different trait of a number than being prime. Also, she was original because no one else in this study gave the answer that 23 is made of 2 consecutive digits and the others are not. So this is something that only she observed. That's why we can consider this student as a creative thinking. And now I would like to move a little to some theoretical broaden a little perspective about creativity. One of the people in mathematics education that worked a lot about creative mathematics is Ed Silver from Michigan State University in the United States. And this little table here is taken from his paper on creativity. So in the middle here, you can see the 3 constructs we just talked about. Fluency, flexibility, and novelty and originality is sort of the same thing. What's interesting here is that we can see that Silver talks about students' problem solving with respect to these 3 constructs, but also about students' problem posing. So this is even a higher level. So if we talk about fluency, in problem solving, we expect creative students to explore open-ended problems with many interpretation, solution methods, or answers. But if we talk about problem posing, if we have our students generate many problems to be solved, then this is even a higher level. If we talk about flexibility, so again, in problem solving, students can solve in one way, then in other ways, and discuss many different ways. But also, when we talk about problem posing, they can pose problems that are solved in different ways. For example, by using the what if not strategy. I don't know if many of you are aware of this strategy called what if not. I will not get into it. I will just say shortly that if you have a certain mathematical data and something that you need to prove, then the what if not approach switches a little some of the data to get a different answer or to get a different context. And this is something that is not very easy for us as lecturers to do, let alone for students to do. So this is a high level of thinking. Again, with novelty, students, when they solve problems, they examine many solutions and then try to generate one that is different. But in problem posing, students examine several posed problems, and then they can pose a problem that is different, which is, again, a higher level. Why is creativity so important? It is nowadays being considered as one of the most desired outcomes of education. This is reflected if we look at what happened to Bloom's taxonomy in the past 60 years or so. I'm sure all of you are aware to the classical taxonomy of Bloom. And we all know that it goes like this. From lower order thinking skills to higher order thinking skills, we start with knowledge, and then Bloom's highest quality of thinking or level of thinking was evaluation. But if you enter the Google and you look for Bloom's taxonomy revised for these days, you will find something different. You will find an updated version that goes like that. First, we have the knowledge or remembering, and then the comprehension, understand, application, analyze, evaluate is now only in the 5th place. And in the 6th and most highest place, we find create. And this has to do with the way our world is changing and the job environments are changing and the need to create new knowledge and be creative in work. If it doesn't matter if you're an engineer or a high-tech a company manager or a chef or any other job that you can think about, the ability to create is something that differentiates you from other people pursuing the same career. I also like this figure of Bloom's taxonomy. I even like it better than the others because the creative here is one of 3 higher order thinkings which are analyze and evaluate, and not the highest one, but that's a matter of taste, so I won't stay here much longer. Let's look at the recent statement from an article by Harris et al. From 2019. That students' competencies in the 21st century are presented in 4 C's: critical thinking and problem solving, communication, collaboration, and creativity, which are important to be a foundation for successful learning in schools and careers. Okay, so how do we do it? Okay, we are all lecturers in high schools, in academies, in universities. How do we enhance creativity in our students? This is one question that I would like to relate to today. I will talk about secondary school, which is my major specialty, but also I will give example from first-year university students because I know this is something that people here are interested in. And in my talk, I will differentiate between advanced students and low achievers. And as you will see, I claim that both these populations can be encouraged to be creative in their mathematical answers, which is something that is not, I would say, it's not a trivial claim. but you will be the judges of that after you hear it. Okay, so to speak about tasks, we need some terminology. We need some general terminology to categorize students' types of mathematical thinking. So we will have a shared language and then we can look at some examples. So first I'm going to use Breen and O'Shea's terminology. They actually summarized some of the well-known people in mathematics education who theorized about types of mathematical thinking. So they begin with a very famous Richard Skemp, who differentiated, as I'm sure you all know, between instrumental and relational understanding. Then they reviewed some other works of people that are less well-known than Skemp. First of all, Poynton and Sanjuin from 2003, that differentiated between adaptive and adaptive learning, where adaptive is something that the students need to receive and adopt from what they get from the lecturers, whereas adaptive, they need to rethink what they get and not just take for granted what they receive from lecturers. Lithner from 2008 differentiated between imitative and creative reasoning. And John Mason and Johnston Wilder differentiated between students accepting knowledge versus asserting themselves. So I'm sure that you can all see that I'm referring to this right-hand side of these differentiations as related to one another. Relational understanding, adaptive learning, creative reasoning, asserting mode, these are all associated with higher order thinking that we look for in our students. I also want to mention Ann Watson and John Mason's framework. The whole framework is called Questions and Prompts to Generate Thinking. This is relevant to all levels of mathematical thinking. And out of this framework, I chose to show you just two categories, which I think are relevant for us today. One is exemplifying and one is generalizing. And I will specifically focus today about how we can have our students exemplify mathematical phenomena and be creative about that. So the type of questions that we can ask here are, give me one or more example of something. Describe, show, choose, or find an example of something. When I say something, I'm talking about mathematical phenomena, of course, but I will give examples in just a short while. What makes this and this an example? Find a counter example. How many times do we ask students to find counter examples to mathematical claims? I don't think that's very much. Are there any special examples of such and such? So this is something very useful from Watson and Mason. And now, okay, what happened here? Sorry about that. Okay. There's also the framework for promoting creativity by Poynton and Sanjuin. They created a mathematical question taxonomy. You can see here that it starts from the lowest order of cognitive demand from students, which is factual recall, then carry out routine calculation or algorithm. And so it goes on higher and higher in the thinking skills. Again, the two highest levels are construct an instance, which is very, very similar to give an example, and criticize a fallacy. Okay, what is wrong with this mathematical claim? Can you put your finger on what doesn't work here? How many times do we give our students questions like that? Why is this claim wrong instead of prove this? Okay. Now let's go, after we have some terminology here, and I hope you're still with me. I know it's very difficult in this late hour to stay focused, but maybe the examples will do its work. First, let's look at example for advanced students. What do I mean when I say advanced students? So there are some characteristics known in the literature about what it means to be a mathematically talented student. A classical one is by Krotetsky, the Soviet researcher from 1976, which published a very seminal work that I like a lot. And according to Krotetsky, the characteristics of talented students are they can generalize quickly, they can easily reverse their direction of thought, they can shift back and forth between different representations, and they strive to elegant and economical solutions. Okay, why is this stuck? Okay. So if we want to look at tasks that enhance creativity of advanced students, I'm not sure why my PowerPoint is stuck. It's not, oh, okay. I'm going to show you some features adapted from a very recent article, which I find very nice to read, by El Turki from 2020. Kostas, if you want, I can share it with you and then you can share it with the others. It's called Tasks to Foster Mathematical Creativity in Calculus 1. It's a very, very nice article. And they say that features of tasks that foster mathematical creativity are, again, open-ended. So it's just the same as we had in the primary school. Allows multiple solutions or multiple representations. Allows different approaches leading to the one answer if there's only one answer. Builds on reverse thinking and requests posing problems and questions, just as Silver recommended. And we can begin that even in not in the university, even in junior high school. Look at this question. It's meant for grade 8, but we will see that the principles are the same if we go to university. So this is a grade 8 task that encourages creativity about equations. So instead of solve the equation, this and this and this, and then again equation, another equation, more equations, how about construct an equation? There are 4 elements, -1, 3, 5, and x. Construct different equations from these elements. Each element must appear once and only once in every equation. Then solve your equations. Then if all the equations you constructed have positive solutions, try to construct an equation with a negative solution. If all the equations you constructed have solutions greater than -5, try to construct an equation with a solution less than -5. What you can see here, again, in terms of features, is that, again, this is open-ended. It allows multiple solutions. It builds on reverse thinking. So again, not solve the equation, create an equation and solve it, and then solve it in a way that the solution will be so and so. This is something that makes the brain work. It's not a procedure. It's not knowledge recall. It's not instrumental understanding. It's something else. It's what we call higher order thinking and specifically creative thinking. Now, how does it look when we move to the university level? No. First, I have another example from secondary school. I don't know if maybe you will find it also useful for university. I think it's more suited for high school. This task is taken from work of my friends Alex Frindler and Abraham Arkabi. Look at this task. Fold a square-shaped paper as described below. What happens to the perimeter and the area as you fold the shapes? Describe the patterns of change. Okay, if we look at this task again, what we can see is that it integrates various mathematical domains in one question. So first of all, we have geometry here. We have squares, rectangles, perimeters, area, but we have also arithmetic, numerical tables, operations, difference, ratio. We have algebra because we can use formulas to describe a pattern generalization in this task. Also, another feature is that this task allows for more than one solution strategy. Here we only have one type of answer. There's a correct answer to this task, but you can arrive at it in many strategies. You can use the inductive strategy, So you look at the collection of data, you try some examples, and then you make a generalization based on that. Or you can use the deductive strategy and then do a global analysis of the problem situation without looking at specific data. Another feature is that allows various representation for communicating the answer. You can communicate your answer to this task verbally, numerically, symbolically, graphically. I'm giving you here just one example of students' work with a spreadsheet. Try to figure out what's going on here. And the pattern here is certainly not a usual one, because the perimeter and the area don't change in the same manner when you fold the paper as I showed before. Okay, let's look now at an example of task from calculus. Sketch or write the equation of a function for which the second derivative test is inconclusive at x equals 1. Provide justification as to how you know the second derivative test fails. And then what would be a next step for finding extrema if the second derivative fails? Of course, this is asked before the students learn it. That's why it's creative, because they have to find out on their own some strategies for continuing when the second derivative test fails. Again, this task, if we look at this feature, again, this is open-ended. It allows multiple solutions and multiple representations, algebraic or graphical. And I'm sure no one will say here that this task is not reliable because it has many solutions. But of course, we can get endless options of functions for which the second derivative is not, a test is inconclusive. So each student can give a different answer. And then if we look at all the answers we got from our students in the class, we can see who is. Sorry?
Sorry about this. I should find,
Maybe someone needs to be muted.
I'm muted, sorry.
Okay, thank you. So again, if we ask our students this question for homework or for part of the lesson, we can look at the different answers that we got, the different functions. First of all, we can see who used an equation and who used a sketch. We can look at who used both. We can look at who gave more than one function as an answer, who gave something that is different from what other people gave, and that means that they're original. So this is certainly a task that enhances mathematical creativity. According to the terminology I presented before in Watson and Mason's terms, this requires students to exemplify. This is part A. And in part B, they need to generalize. Here's another example. Find a I can't say this word in English. Help. I'll say it in Hebrew.
Trigonometric.
Also in Hebrew, trigonometry, but in English, trigonometric.
Trigonometric.
Is it a G? Is this a soft G or a strong G? I'm never sure.
I have no idea what is a strong or soft or hard G.
It's a G or it's a J.
Trigonometric, I think.
Trigonometric. Go, I said go, okay.
No.
Anyway, find such a function that is non-trigonometric, okay, thank you, Kostas, and a domain AB such that the integral here is 0. Okay, this is the task. What are the features of the task? Again, it's open-ended. Again, it allows multiple solutions and multiple representations. It encourages students' originality, especially if more than one function is requested. So if you give this in your class and you have an answer from a student, instead of letting him sit back and wait for all the others to produce examples, you can encourage him or her to give another example, and then another example, and then another example. At a certain time, it begins to be really difficult, even for the talented students, to produce more answers that haven't been produced before. And this is exactly where they are forced to be more creative. Okay, here's another example for a task. Give an example of the following. Okay, that's easy. A function f which is continuous at x equals 5. By the way, this is again from Green and O'Shea. Then a function which is not continuous at x equals 5 because f is not defined at 5. Then a function f which is not continuous at x equals 5 because the limit there does not exist. This is a different function, of course. And then fourth, a function f which is not continuous because the limit does not equal f at 5. So this is a series of questions that asks for more and more function that satisfies certain terms. And you can see that the principle remains the same. Up till now, I have discussed and I have gave examples for tasks for I would say gifted or advanced or talented students. I don't know what the situation is in your classrooms, and if you think that these questions are too easy for students or maybe too complicated for students, it of course depends on the context. And
I will say these questions are too difficult for me.
I'm sure it's not true. I'll tell you what's difficult, Kostas. It's difficult because we are used as lecturers to see a question and immediately know what the answer is. If I ask you, what is the integral of blah, 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 you wouldn't even have to think. You have it so routinely in your mind that you would have the answer like that. Maybe the students will need more time. But here, the beauty, I think, in these tasks is that even us as lecturers, we know the material. We cannot produce them just like that. We have to think. We have to think, and then we have to think harder. And then if we need another example, which is different from the first one, we need to think even harder. This is exactly what we want. We want students to practice their brain, to be more creative in their answers. And I agree with you. Before bringing such questions to class, first we have to try them ourselves. We have to make sure that we at least have one answer or two answers or three different answers for this before we ask it from our students. But now I want to move to, I'll just have a look at the chat to see if we have questions about this part so far. Okay, this is about the article, no problem, I will share the article. Now I want to move, okay, do we have another question? Let's see. What does it mean you don't know because it's not a mathematical, I'm having some hard time understanding.
I think that what she would like to say, Despina, it is like, what did you say? It's like beyond the traditional way of thinking, like that we don't have an immediate answer, as Ronnie, you have mentioned. It's like out of the box, let's say.
Exactly. This whole thing that I'm trying to talk about here is the out of the box thing. If we as lecturers know the answers like this, so for students, it will take a few minutes more. And I'm not saying that it's not important. It's very important that students have the practice and exercise everything that we want them to know. They have to control the procedures. They have to know the material. But every once in a while, adding to the lesson questions like that is something else. It's a higher level. And then we demand more than them and we make them more creative, as probably they will need to be when they finish the university and go to work. They will probably not have routines to everything that they have to demonstrate in work, and they will need to create some new knowledge. So this is the way we encourage them to practice this side of their brains. Okay. Exactly, like Rodrigo says, this is lateral thinking, which it has to break down the regular way. Okay, and now I think I might surprise you a little when I move to the second half of my talk. And this has to do with the with the title of the talk being Mathematical Creativity for All Students. And here I cite the three distinguished colleagues, Rosa Leiking, Avi Berman, and Boris Koichu, who is also part of this item project. Boris, I mean. And they wrote in one of their books about creativity that the development of mathematical creativity in all students is one of the major objectives of school mathematics education. And now I'm referring to school, not necessarily university. And my question to you is, do we really expect creativity from students at all levels? Specifically, if you think about low achievers, do you really expect them to be creative? Let's look at this question. So first, let's look at does it mean to be low achieving in secondary school mathematics? These are two papers that I'm building on. So we have gaps in prerequisite arithmetic bases. We have short-lived memories for mathematical procedures when we're talking about low achieving students. We have low frustration threshold. I'm sure that all of you know about this phenomena. We sometimes have difficulties with reading and writing in the mathematical language. And we also have short concentrating periods. Lastly, difficulties in planning, self-monitoring, and reflecting during problem solving. These are all characteristics found in low achieving students. So what I want to say is, if we have the image of a low achieving student in our mind, and we're looking at this triad that I mentioned of fluency, flexibility, and originality, how does this connect to a low achieving student? I think that most of us will not expect fluency in low achieving students because we're happy if they have one method. So talk about more method. I mean, that's about flexibility. Fluency, we're happy if we have one solution. So more than one solution. So many times the characteristics of fluency and flexibility are indeed very difficult to find in low achieving students. However, the third side of creativity, which is originality or novelty, I claim that we can many times find it in low achieving students from various reasons that I will talk about. And my claim is the following: it is an alternative approach to creativity. I say, and you can agree or disagree, it's okay, because there have been many people in the last few years that have agreed with me, and even more people that have disagreed with me about this approach. So you are welcome to disagree or agree as you want. But my claim is that when low achieving students use unconventional methods to solve problems, even if the problems themselves are routine, very routine even, I count this as a creative course of action. And this is a different world from talking about the tasks that I previously talked about for high achieving students, or for talented, or for advanced students. Because then we talk about certain tasks, like I explained, that promote creativity. Here I'm talking about really routine tasks, and I will show examples. But I claim that if the student, the low achieving students, can find an unconventional method to solve the problem, I consider this as creative course of action, which I would like to promote. So let's look at some examples. I have been dealing with low achieving students in high school for many years. I had a very large project in Israel the aim of it was to promote success of low track students in high stakes exams, such as the matriculation exam. And so all the examples that I'm going to give now are from my acquaintance with, and I'm talking about really low achieving students, students that are sometimes at risk of not passing the matriculation exam in the lowest level. So look at this, look at this problem, very routine problem. In an arithmetic sequence, The sum of the third and the sixth terms equals 25. The fifth term equals 14. Find the first term of this sequence. How would you solve this problem? Maybe Kostas, you can tell me, because this is supposed to be like that. How would advanced students solve this problem? Arithmetic sequence, sum of the third and the sixth, and we have the fifth term. So what the students are supposed to do? You can write it in the chat if you want, or if you're too tired, I can just put the next slide. So this is a conventional solution. We use two equations with two, unknowns, okay? The first term of the sequence and the difference are the unknowns. You write in the data in a mathematical manner, and then you have two equations, you solve the equations, and then you figure out that the difference is 3. Very nice. Only that low achieving students, especially in high school, again, I'm not talking about university now, this is very difficult for them because they have very big problems in the mathematical notations and in solving in equations with two unknowns, and not to talk about the index A1, which is even this is a difficult concept for some of the students that I have met. So now I want to give you, I'm going to show you a student's answer, a different answer to this question. It's written in Hebrew, but of course I'm going to translate it. So this is what the student said, wrote. The sum of the third and the sixth, and so the sum of the fourth and the fifth is 25. Okay, this is given. This means, says the student, this is also 25. Why? Because it's an arithmetic series and we have this, this trait of arithmetic series that these consecutive arcs always give us the same sum. And so the student says, if the fifth term equals 14, which is given, then the fourth equals 11. And so D equals 3. And this is the student's answer. And then by adding and subtracting 3 to both sides, he also found that the first term is 2, the D is 3. This is a very different answer than this, okay? It's not using any mathematical notations, okay? It's talking about common sense and the trait of arithmetic series. Let's look at another question like that. Look at this one. It's another arithmetic series. The seventh term is greater than the third term by 6. The 15th term equals 36. It's very similar to the other one. You solve it like this. Again, two equations, two unknowns. You solve the equation, then you find out that D is 1.5 and the first term is 15. Let's look at another student's answer. It's not the same student, it's another student. This is the answer. What's going on here? The student marked, remember that the question says that the 15th term equals 36. So the student marked 14 blank spots. And here in the 15 part, he wrote 36, or she, I don't remember if it was he or she, it was some years ago. And then look at this part here. Because it is given that the seventh term is greater than the third term by 6, this is again a trait of an arithmetic sequence that keeps along the series. So if we skip 4 places here, we will skip 6 in terms of the value. Again, 4 terms, we skip another 6. This is what's written here. Again, 4 terms, we skip another 6. Then we have just 2 terms. So the one path of thought could be that now it will be 3 because it's half of what it was before, or take the 6 and divide it by 4 and get the 1.5. So again, no algebraic terms, very original thinking to solve the same problem. I'm now going to give you a third example, which is from statistics. Basic statistics. It's a question that appears in the low-level matriculation exam in Israel, the lowest level. Okay, so the table shows the distribution of grades in a class. The relative frequency of students who receive the grade 6 is 20%. Find the number find the number of, this is a typo there. Find the number of students in the class. Find the number of students who receive the grade 7. Again, the conventional way to solve this, we all know it. It will go like that. If I give you a paper and pencil and you need to solve it, you won't even have to think about it for more than 1 second. Okay, you use the unknown, you solve for the unknown, and you get the number of students that is 30, and then you subtract all the data that you have, and you find that the missing value here is 9. But what about students that this path is too difficult for them? Look at a solution of a student. This student said this. Okay, we know that this is 20% because the question told us that this is 20%. This is 6. Then here we also have 20% because it's also 6. Then here together we also have 20%. And here we have just 3, so it's 10%. This means that here we have 30%. So if we look here, we also have 30%, which is 9. Then I know that X is 9 without any of the considerations that I've shown here. Now, what I want to speak about for a minute is what do these solutions, I showed you 3 solutions given by low achievers. What do they have in common? So first of all, we saw that they're not algorithmic in nature, all of them. They're related ad hoc to the given data. So they make use of the given data specifically. What worked in one question may not work in another question. Now, we as mathematics teachers do not like that because we say, I want you to know a method that works for all problems. But sometimes these methods are too difficult for the students. And so they engage their mind and brain for the given data only, and they find the specific way to do this for this question only. Then they're doing so, they bypass the need for formulas and symbolic notations which are so difficult for them. And if they supply any explanation, they are mostly verbal. I also saw students' answers that do not include even one word, just a sketch or just a visual solution that was perfectly valid. There are short and clear and some even elegant solutions. So again, I claim that these can be called unconventional creative solutions in a sense that is different from the creativity that I've talked before for advanced students. Why does this happen? What are the origins of creative behavior of low achievers? Again, I repeat, we are not used to thinking about low achievers as creative people in mathematics. So there are 3 reasons for this, I think. First, the straightforward path is blocked. The conventional resources are often not available for low achievers. The second thing is that informal and alternative strategies are presented in the course of learning, so students don't have to invent everything themselves. For example, the feature of arithmetic sequences that if we mark an arch, the arch will always have the same sum wherever we draw it. This is something that was probably presented in class. It's not something that the student invented, but it's informal and alternative fact that the student could use in their search for a solution. And also it's a matter of how productive ways of thinking are legitimized by us, the teachers. And if alternative ways, and this concerns all students, if alternative ways of creating solutions are blocked or are judged as not good enough by us, the teachers, then students will stop supplying these. It's only if we legitimize alternative ways of thinking that students will try to provide alternative and creative ways of thinking. What lies beneath the surface of this alternative and somewhat, I admit, narrow view of mathematical creativity for low achievers are the following. First of all, we get more equity. because we include low achievers within the population of mathematics learners for which we set reform targets such as higher order thinking. We also improve the quality of teaching because encouraging creativity among low track students contradicts the common practice of slow and repetitious exercising of solution algorithms. We also advance the quality of learning because alternative solutions usually correspond with the meaning of concept better than algorithmic solutions, as we saw in the examples of the arithmetic series. And we also get more success. And for this, I have research that proves it, that once creative and formal strategies are accepted, more students can pass important exams. And this is something that in Israel, we persuaded the Ministry of Education to accept as legitimate answers in the matriculation exam. And nowadays, if a student gives an alternative answer in the matriculation exam and it is well justified by a, like we saw, by a sketch or by a diagram or by any verbal means, it is accepted and gets the full credit for the question. I also want to say that some of the questions that I've shown before for high achieving students can still be relevant, maybe a little differently, maybe a little easier, but can still be relevant for low achieving. So look at this question. It very much resembles the questions I've mentioned earlier. Draw a function f that satisfies the following. The derivative at 2 is positive, the derivative at 5 is negative, and the derivative at 3 is 0. This is a fairly easy question, but what would be surprising is that in a low track classroom where we tested this question at the age of 17, we did get answers that were very nice. These are examples of two very different answers that we had to this question. Okay, you can see very different features of the function that students drew. And as a teacher, we can take these different answers and talk about them in class, because they are different in terms of continuancy, of the existence of a derivative. So we can make a whole discussions about these examples. Let's just, I'm going to finish with one last example, again from a low track, to show you how original these students can be. So draw an equilateral triangle ABC with BC as its base. It is given that BC equals 4 centimeters and the altitude is 6 centimeters. So the first questions are very, very traditional. Find the angles of the triangle using trigonometry and find the area of the triangle. But look at the last question. Add to your drawing 2 more triangles so that one of their sides is BC and they have the same area. Look at the answers we have from, again, a low track classroom age 17. So this is the answer we would expect, the symmetrical answer. Here is the equilateral triangle. And if we need to add 2 more triangles, it's very likely that students will give these 2 symmetrical triangles. But look at this student. This is already original, that the students decided to put his 2 triangles in the other side of BC. So that this shows a bit of creativity. Another student decided not to follow the symmetrical stance and gave one answer here and one answer here. Although for him, it was more work because the angles are now different, so they have to calculate more. But I particularly like the 4th answer that now I'm going to give you. Look at this answer. I think it's very creative. So the 2 triangles drawn here are from the 2 sides, and then a 3rd dimensional triangle is drawn. And this is, again, I remind you, by a low track student. So this again shows that low track students can be creative if we ask the right questions. I would like now to sum up my talk. I hope you're still alive. And this is the points that I've tried to make very, very shortly, very, very, in a very general terms. So creative thinking is a desired outcome of mathematical lessons for all students. We should ask ourselves as lecturers, as teachers, what aspect of creativity is relevant for our students, gifted, average, or non-mathematically oriented students? Then we can introduce appropriate tasks. For gifted students or advanced students, tasks that encourage creativity usually match students' motivation for challenge. For low achievers, tasks that encourage creativity usually match students' need to bypass the conventional algorithms which have failed them before. And the last point I made is that creativity can raise success rates of at-risk students in high-stakes exams. Thank you very much. I'll stop the share now.
Thank you very much, Ronnie, for this very inspiring, I will say, presentation. Are there any questions? Because I have some. Let's give the floor first to the people. If you have questions, please raise your hand. If this is not the case, I will start with mine. And then I hope that, someone or, the others, they will follow. So, Ronnie, I have the following questions. Very nice. I mean, I would like, my first question is the following. Okay, now it is very nice that you have taken to the consideration, I don't like the word, but I will use it because I have it, like the low performance students, okay? So the low performance students now, they can be somehow be approached using different pedagogy in order to be included into the success, in order to do not be isolated. So my first question is like, how can we train teachers, to direct within a classroom that there are 200 people, to direct, the right questions that you said to the low performance. We need a training, no? I mean, yes. Or it's something that we should discover as scholars, we have a question, and right now I'm going to talk about myself. I'm trying to ask a question, and then I try to elaborate a little bit more in order to help them to answer. But I'm not trained. I mean, my question, it will be the same. Either it's a high performer or it's a or a low performer. So how can we, any other ideas, like, I mean, using your program in Israel that you are referring to help the low performers to perform, how do you train the teachers? Or the teachers are not on the game?
Of course they are on the game. First of all, I'm a great believer in professional development of teachers. Teachers are always the key. Mm-hmm. And teachers, I believe teachers always or mostly want their students to succeed. Mm-hmm. The question with teachers of low track students or low performing students is exactly what you said, they don't know how. So I must tell you that we had traveled a very long way in trying to understand how to help teachers to help low achieving students. This began, I think, 15 years ago. We started with courses, just courses, summer courses. We invited people to come to summer courses in the Weizmann Institute, and we presented to them materials and tasks and, sorry?
No, I just mute someone.
Okay, and teachers came every summer. I think we did that for 10 years. Every summer, we had a summer course of 4 days for teachers who want to teach low achieving students. We presented materials and strategies and pedagogies and things really wonderful. And we got even really nice feedback from teachers, but it did not go to the classroom. It did not go to the classroom. We found it by research because it's very, very difficult to be attentive to low performing students without support. So what we did after 10 years, I think, yeah, that was also a long time ago, so probably more than 15 years, we opened a project which gave personalized support. It's a very, I would say, it needs a lot of resources, Kostas, so not everyone can do it. But our Ministry of Education supported that. And this was, schools got a counselor that is specializing in low achieving students in mathematics. And so this counselor came to the schools, not the teachers. We stopped the teachers having come to the Weizmann Institute because they didn't take things back. Although they enjoyed and they said it was very interesting, they didn't take it back. But when the counselor comes to the school and sits with the teacher in his or her classroom and then sits with the teacher after class to speak about what could have been done better in order to promote this thinking of low achieving students, this worked. This is where we started to see results. And when I say results, I mean in terms of matriculation grades. So we had classes that were not matriculation bound, means that the school said these students are not gonna pass the matriculation exam, and they did. After the teachers were supported in a personalized support, this worked. But also I must say that if you use routine questions, it's very difficult to promote low achieving students. You have to have something different for them. And this is a matter of design. You have to design materials. The only thing that I can say is that if you, Kostas, specifically have a class of 200 people and you want to promote creativity, with the bright students, the less bright students, the strategy of find examples, having students find examples or pose questions is a strategy that allows you to deal with both, because the more advanced students will just find, you know, maybe 10 solutions, while the low performing students will find 1 or 2 solutions, but they still found something. They still worked, they still understood. And while this happened, the high achieving students were not bored. They were, because you can have some kind of competition or something like, who can find more, who can find more different solutions. So then you have you see what I mean? The advanced students competing, who can find, while the low achieving find solutions, but they do find solutions. So that's the answer I can give it. It's a huge subject. We need to talk more, but yeah.
So I'm keeping 2 things. First of all, that we should be trained. Second one, we should have the help and the backup of, let's say, the state to hire, or, you know, the university to hire these counselors and speak with the teachers and discuss, you know, their experiences, like through the interaction with the lecture. Before I'm not going to ask my second one, since, you know, there are questions on the chat. So I will start with our colleague Nissim Harel. You describe how to help high school students. How can apply these methodologies in higher education with a rigid structure of lecture, recitation, exams, and etc.?
Okay, thank you, Nissim, for this question. I'm not sure I'm seeing you, but I'll try to pretend that I'm seeing you. Oh, now I can see you. Hi, Nissim. And so, achieving students in the university, I confess that I don't have experience with that, and I can't supply you know, a wonder solution for that, because my experience is in high school low achieving students, and I think things are different in the university, because you do expect students to control or to master the mathematical notations, which in high school you can avoid. But if you're talking about promoting creativity for other students, for just normal, I don't know, average students, then I think that if once in a while you take a certain topic and you present tasks that are not solve this, but give an example of, or pose a question of, or try to find as many solutions to, I know you can't do it every lesson. This won't work because you have a material to so-called be delivered, and you need them to master certain procedures. But if every once in a while you stop and you have such questions, this is a creativity promoter per se. And what you can read in the article that I will send to Kostas and he can share with the others, the research by El-Turki, they studied two lectures in Calculus 1. That was university lectures. And they studied how they promote. I took the test from them, but the tests were not invented by El-Turki. They were invented by the 2 lecturers that they studied. And so this is a very, very nice article. And I think it's going to be a nice reading if you are more interested in that. And it's doable. They did it. Okay. So some people do it, you know, once in a course. Some people do it once in a month. Some people do it once a week. I don't know. It's according to what you can afford yourself and the pace of the class. I hope I answered a little.
So I think on top of this, what did you say, Ronnie? My perspective is like it's our duty to help the lower performers because this is our role. The way that I'm thinking is like the good ones, they will find a way. They don't need me. Okay, probably I should support them in order to keep their motivation to learn. But I think that my duty as a teacher is like to do the best that I can in order to train the lower performers to become better. So, I mean, this is like a priority. I think that the universities, they should have, is like, do not isolate them. Do not be focused. These are excellent students. You know, speak about, you know, the excellent students all the time and leave the others because, you know, the others also is like, this is our role. I mean, this is, I think that, you know, I'm thinking as a basketball coach that you should train, you know, and you should practice with weaker ones. The good ones, they are there, you know, they are talents. They are going to survive and they are going to support even without my help. So
yes, but don't forget, I agree with you, but don't forget that the good ones also can get bored.
Yeah, of
and
course.
we don't want,
that's why I said
maybe they can cope without you, but they will get bored in class.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Yes, you also solve this problem that they don't get bored.
Yes, definitely.
I think.
No,
I think Nick has a question.
Yeah, Nick. I don't know who is Nick, but Nick, the floor is yours.
I see the name Nick with a hand.
Yeah. Let's see if Nick will speak.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, very well.
Yeah.
First of all, I have to say that I'm a student. I'm not a teacher.
Okay.
And I was very curious about this topic, and I have done some sort of research on my own. So I have a question about how does mind mapping and concept mapping of complex topics help in any way when it comes to understanding for lower achievers?
Concept maps. Let me see if I got you.
Visualizations of material in a more structured, non-linear way.
Okay, there's visualization and there's concept maps, and the concept maps is part of visualization. Personally, I don't think that concept maps are, if the more they get more complicated, the less they are effective in helping low achievers grasping the material. Because one of the problems that, again, I'm speaking about secondary school students, I'm not speaking about university students, which I have not researched low achievers in universities, but I have researched low achievers in secondary schools. And one of the problem they have is that if there is too much text, they get confused. They need ideas. They need ideas that connect to their sense making, to their common sense. So if you use concept maps that are built from, you know, how things relate to each other and with the arrows and the text, many of these low achieving students will not find their way in this. If the concept map is very concise and short, then it might help. However, there are other ways of visualization that I think are tremendously important. For example, we teach analytic geometry only with the visual means of understanding the slope as I forgot the word in English, as like a staircase. Okay, understanding the slope as a change when you go up or down a line. And we don't use, which is a very strong visualization. We don't use the formula. Thank you. I'm also a bit tired, sorry. Don't use the formulas for the analytic geometry, only use visualization. Also, as you saw with the examples of the arithmetic series, the visualization of the arcs and the blank spaces that you fill according to your common sense is a very, very powerful strategy for low achievers. Whereas when you try the formulas and double unknown equations, you are very much find yourself in trouble with low achieving students. So I'm not sure I answered your questions very specifically, because there are many types of visualizations, but I can say that I very much believe in visualization as long as it has less text and more just common sense in it. So does this answer, Nick?
More like a personalized short with sentences, keeping them as short as possible.
Yes, short, visual, understandable, connects to
connect the dots.
real life, connect to sense making. That's the most important thing. But this is, you know, we're talking here very in a nutshell. In the design of materials, there are a lot of principles that the designers of these materials for low achievers have used for the tasks. So I feel a little bit that I'm overgeneralizing this very wide sea of task design for low achievers. So I think that I will not say more.
Okay, I have one more question, if
Yes,
I can say that. So I was also interested about if there is any experience on your side about mixed practice problems. So usually what we see in lectures, books, in teaching materials, when in the practice problems after every chapter, they're usually in some sort of a way set up as the material is presented. So let's say if you have at the starting of the lecture, if you have a definition, then like first test, second test, third test, then the practice problems are also following that kind of linear example. Like the first 10 practice problems are for the definition, the second are for the first test, then for the second and the third. And my question is, are there any evidences about mixing them up and maybe introducing other problems from past lectures and mixing them all up, so we would get maybe an initial lower score on answered questions, but in the long term, maybe more is retained or something?
This is a very, very nice question, and I really like the perspective that you suggested. So again, my specialty is the higher grades of secondary school, the pedagogy of this rather than the pedagogy of university. But I can tell you that even in secondary schools math, the textbooks in Israel, most of them very much look like you described. So the exercises are the mirror image of the material with the same order, and it's very constructed so that the student knows, now I'm practicing this bit, now I'm practicing this bit, now I'm practicing this bit. And one of the things that the Weizmann Institute's textbooks for high school students try to do is to break this and to, exactly like you said, mix exercise that relate to prior units, mix the order so that students will have to think what they're answering, and they wouldn't know by the title that now I'm doing a trigonometrical equation in which you have to use this and this strategy. But it's an equation. I don't know the strategy. It could be any of the strategies mentioned in the chapter, and now I have to identify which would be useful here. So yeah, I agree with everything that you said. It's rare. Most textbooks follow the pattern that you mentioned. You have to make a specific effort to break this kind of habit, and it doesn't happen often.
Okay, thank you very much.
Ronnie, can I mention something on this? Because I was thinking to what Nick has just asked. I think that the way that they are building, they are building the sequence is like another, I think, important thing that any learner should have. Is like building your confidence. So when you have your confidence in a topic is getting higher and higher and higher, I think this also supports the creativity because you are feeling more comfortable, you are realizing the environment. And if you realize something, you have a view, you know how the things can go, you know how the things they can combine. So I will say that the way that the textbooks, they are like, are built like this. I'm not an offender and I'm not a defender, but I was just like I was thinking based to the Nick, why is this thing? I think that this, and thinking of my perspective, is like to build your confidence. And when your confidence is like, is in a good level, then you can create, then you can risk, because risking also is very nice, is a thing that you should have. You should risk and you should test your ideas in order to be creative, I think, like based on the discussion.
Yes, in response to what you say, Kostas, which of course I can find parts that I agree with, I would like to mention a nice metaphor that I heard from Professor Anna Sfard, which is one of the greatest experts worldwide to mathematics education. Maybe I already mentioned it in one of our meetings, I don't remember it, but what Anna offered is the metaphor of two legs walking. She said one leg is the practicing, the procedure, the confidence building, the automatization that we want to get so we will feel safe. And the other leg is understanding, reasoning, creating, and all this higher order thinking. What she said is this: if you walk only on this leg of procedures, you do not walk well. If you walk only on this leg of conceptual understanding, you also do not walk well. What you need to do is walk like that. Practice a little and then bring in some conceptual understanding, and then practice more, which will make you understand more, and the understanding will make your procedures more automatics, and all the time you have to put one leg after the other. But so this means that if we wait until all students are confident in the procedures and only then we bring in some creative material, it's also not good. And of course, bringing in conceptual understanding in a creative task without the students having practiced before and feeling secure, like you said, is also not good. We have to all the time combine them. This is why I said to Nissim before, after you teach something and then you can bring a creative task, not at the end of the year, at the end of the procedure, and then you move on to the next procedure. Maybe they will understand it better after doing the conceptual task. So I like this metaphor of all the time walking on the two legs. I think
I will say key on this is like the motivation that the individuals they have. I mean, you should be individually motivated in order to do this, no? Like
yes,
you can help them. Yes, you can help them through your teaching to bring, these creative tests in order to promote this. But
motivation, Kostas, is a very elusive thing, because for some people, motivation comes from succeeding in the exercise. Look, I had a procedural exercise and I overcome it and I succeeded it. Now I'm motivated to do more. For some other students, motivation comes from understanding. I understood it, so now I want to learn more. And there are differences between motivation of different people. I'm sure that even between the people in this room, in this Zoom room, we have difference in what makes us motivated. So this makes everything more complicated, because as lecturers, we have to try to find out what keeps our students motivated, and we might have so different answers, and we have to cater for very different answers and do a little bit of this and a little this and a little. So to be a university lecturer and a teacher is a very, very complicated profession. And whoever does not acknowledge that has not been a teacher.
And excited, I would say. Okay. Any other questions to Ronnie? So if this is the case, I think that we should stop here. We would like to thank Ronnie. We would like for this nice presentation, inspiring lecture, as Michael Berman has mentioned. I would like to thank also Evangelia, Rodrigo and Israel for this nice first day. I will say nice. I mean, I have no options to say anything different myself, but you know, it was nice. It was very nice. I hope that all of you and all of us, we got something. Before we stop, I think that with Renate, we have prepared the something like an evaluation of the first day. So if you don't mind to spend another 5 minutes with us, 5 to 10 minutes, whoever, you know, we are still together, and I will launch the poll. So please, like, try to answer, you know, these questions that regards the participation at the end. We have at the beginning, we would like to have at the end, and also try to answer some of the questions that they have been placed in order to become better, I think. I mean, of course. So in the middle time, I would like to ask you something, Ronnie. We are talking in the classroom about high performers, low performers, like different approaches, but in the real life, do you think that how we can promote the real life scenario that high performers work together with the lower performers, how they communicate, and how, as you mentioned about this, the legs, well, I think that one should push the other one, and not retard.
Yes.
How we can promote this thing, you know, in the classroom? Because if you leave the students, I just, you know, found out this during the weekend. I was with my nephew. My nephew in Athens, he's in the National University of, in the Kapodistrian University of Athens. He's a very good student. And when I asked him, they had a presentation, and I asked him, with whom are you? And he told me, with the 3 best students. I said, like, on my mind, why with the 3 best students and not, you know, you don't include someone that he's like, he's not one of the best, because we would like to perform. And I mean, I think that, you know, this is not the optimum attitude. It's not the attitude that they are going to experience in real life. Because even if they are going to lead and manage a company, they should have people that they cannot perform, as, you know, let's say a high profile manager will think. But, you know, the other is a part of the team. So how can we promote the collaboration between high performers and lower performers within the classroom?
It's a very good question, and I'm feeling a little embarrassed because, again, my speciality is not university teaching, so I cannot tell you how to do it in university. I can only refer to the context that I know, which is secondary schools, and there, again, the Weizmann Institute promotes programs that are called something like Together and Apart. What does Together and Apart means? Means if you're having a lesson, a mathematics lesson, to a heterogeneous classroom of students, then you can use one of 4 modes of operating. You can have whole class discussions, you can have individual work, and you can have 2 kinds of groups. One group that is differentiated by ability or achievement. So you have the high ability working together, the low working together, and each one of them gets a differential task. But you can also have a different kind of mixing the groups, and have groups of heterogeneous types. So you have like a strong person sitting with 2 weaker person in a group. So the point is that you don't use only one of these modes. You don't use only whole class or individual class, or these groups, or you mix all the time. So when you mix, you have, if you are, for example, a high performing student in this class, you have a chance to be involved in a class discussion. You have a question, you have a chance to progress at your own pace when you work alone. You have a chance to learn with the best students in the class, if this is a group of best, but you also have a chance to help others at another day or at another class if you sit with and you need to explain to them. So it's the point is to have all forms or all modes of communication in the classroom, not in every lesson, but along the year. If you look along the year, you do one. Sometimes it could be even in one lesson, but I mean, it's to mix the methods so that you can maximize the opportunities. Also for low achievers, once you get the chance to sit with a person who can help you, and once you get a chance to sit with other people who are like you, understand things similarly, and then maybe you get extra help from the teacher. So the thing is to mix the different modes. This is a strategy that I can recommend.
Definitely.
This also, it's a whole world of things to say here, and I feel that I'm being very brief and very general in my answers, but that's the short time that we have, and actually I have to go in 2 minutes.
All of us will have to go. Thank you. And the
Yeah.
last comment is like, for me, the second, what do you present from the high school is very important for the university, because the people are trained well from the high school, and it's a very key, I think, period for their studies. And never is late, but high schools, they should do, and they are doing great job. And the better they do, the better we can do, without saying that we can do much more in the university. Okay, so I would like to thank all of you. Okay, stay safe, and we are going to be back tomorrow at 10 o'clock CET with our session about students, which is like the most important, I would say, fortune, or like what do we have in the universities. All right, so bye-bye, stay safe, and thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.